Baby, nimm einen Schluck, don't pee für die Emotions. Ich erhöhe deine Dosis, so viel Schmuck. Mehr Drip als ein Ocean, meine Drinks sind frozen. Nimm einen Schluck, don't pee für die Emotions. Ich erhöhe deine Dosis, so viel Schmuck. Mehr Drip als ein Ocean, meine Drinks sind frozen.
Fiji Wasser in meinem Eisfach. Du nicht auf meiner Couch, ruf dich nicht, weil ich dich brauch, sondern weil ich wieder Zeit hab. Ich hol dich um 5 ab, Dribbles auf der Rückbank. Wir hören uns Swim Good Frank Ocean. Wir fahren in der Nacht durch 104. Noch ein Zug, wir erhöhen unsere Dosis. Ein Zug für die Emotions. Und die Skyline wird rosa. Jeder heiß, seit einem Monat. Platin weiß, Wein mit Soda. Doch du weißt, ich muss bald wieder los.
Baby, nimm einen Schluck, don't pee für die Emotions. Ich erhöhe deine Dosis, so viel Schmuck. Mehr Drip als ein Ocean, meine Drinks sind frozen. Nimm einen Schluck, don't pee für die Emotions. Ich erhöhe deine Dosis, so viel Schmuck. Mehr Drip als ein Ocean, meine Drinks sind frozen.
Baby, ja, ich kauf dir Diamonds, Diamonds. Mach dich zu dem, was du sein willst, was du sein willst. Bring dich zu den Fiji Islands. Chanel Tasche timeless. Baby, zeig mir, wie du dance, Fastlane, meint sie will nicht, dass ich bremse. Zu viel Rauch, denn das keine Weed blend. Stay high, don't be für die Gang. Baby, komm, wir fliegen Private Jet. Wir sind drunk, wir sind drunk, wir sind drunk. Eliante so vielleicht um mein Neck. Wir sind drunk, wir sind drunk, wir sind drunk.
Baby, nimm einen Schluck, don't pee für die Emotions. Ich erhöhe deine Dosis, so viel Schmuck. Mehr Drip als ein Ocean, meine Drinks sind frozen. Nimm einen Schluck, don't pee für die Emotions. Ich erhöhe deine Dosis, so viel Schmuck. Mehr Drip als ein Ocean, meine Drinks sind frozen.
Il tempo va veloce, si seguo le lancette, ci scrivo le parole perché non l'ha mai dette. Chi dice che sto fuori puoi stare sicuramente. Voglio entrare nei cuori di questa gente. Scrivo le canzoni, esprimo la mia mente. Voi poveri coglioni, chiusi con le manette, legati con i fili, sembrate sì marionette. Ma scrivo le canzoni perché durino per sempre. Tu lasciami stare, lasciami stare, lasciami volare via. Volare via. Ma tu lasciami stare, lasciami stare, lasciami volare via. Volare via. Ora la forza necessaria per rinascere, lavare tutti i miei vestiti dalla polvere, guardare il lato sporco delle vostre maschere, prendere ciò che è mio, prendere ciò che è mio. Ora la forza necessaria per rinascere, lavare tutti i miei vestiti dalla polvere, guardare il lato sporco delle vostre maschere, prendere ciò che è mio, prendere ciò che è mio. Sei troppo giovane, giovane per questo e no, non puoi volare, è ancora troppo presto, ma non è per soldi, per fama o per rispetto, mamma, ma solamente per seguire il mio disegno. Tu lasciami stare, lasciami stare, lasciami volare via, volare via. Ma tu lasciami stare, lasciami stare, lasciami volare via, volare via. Ora la forza necessaria per rinascere, lavare tutti i miei vestiti dalla polvere, guardare il lato sporco delle vostre maschere, prendere ciò che è mio, prendere ciò che è mio. Ora la forza necessaria per rinascere, lavare tutti i miei vestiti dalla polvere, guardare il lato sporco delle vostre maschere, prendere ciò che è mio, prendere ciò che è mio. Lasciami stare, tu lasciami stare, lasciami stare, lasciami volare via. Lasciami stare, tu lasciami stare, lasciami volare via, volare via, volare via, volare via. Ora è la forza necessaria per rinascere, lavare tutti i miei vestiti dalla polvere, guardare il lato sporco delle vostre maschere, prendere ciò che è mio, prendere ciò che è mio. Ora è la forza necessaria per rinascere, lavare tutti i miei vestiti dalla polvere, guardare il lato sporco delle vostre maschere, prendere ciò che è mio, prendere ciò che è mio.
How's everyone doing tonight? Turn down the music here just a little bit so I can hear myself. How's everyone doing tonight? It's Friday night. It's Schalke. How's everyone doing tonight? A lot to get into tonight. Gonna get a rundown tonight. Let's check all the chats, make sure everything's working here. I make sure everything is good to go. All right. Well, got a jam-packed stream tonight. Gonna talk Schalke, of course, Serie A, and then the third hour, maybe react to some other more videos or something. We'll see how I feel. I got a lot of things to edit, so we'll see how much time I have here. Time is pressing for me. But let's get into the rundown for tonight. First with Schalke. Gonna talk Dusseldorf. Gotta talk Dusseldorf. The game that was for them. Marcus Anfang. He was in attendance. We'll discuss his appearance. We'll do the press conference before Elversberg, see what Jakob Fimpel has to say. Talk a little team news. This has been a dire season, so what are the consequences as a result of this season? Anthony, Chow, and Glukauf. Axel Heffer. Is there a conundrum for him? How do we feel about it? And then talk a little about Schalke's Youth Academy. And then go to the second hour to Serie A. Talk about the latest in Serie A, including a new champion. We'll discuss what is the best derby in Serie A. There's a lot to choose from. Everyone has their opinions, so we'll get into that. We'll talk tactics over players. Is it better to have the right coach or to have the right players? We'll discuss that. As well, Udinese. A little bit of controversy with them. It's funny because last week we talked about the fans complaining about the season that was, but maybe there's a little bit more controversy to there that not about the season, but it's about players. So we'll get into that. From Man City to Como, Kevin De Bruyne? Maybe not, but could be somebody else. We'll talk about that. Cheap returns to Serie A, a big name, a known sponsor in Serie A. If you know who I'm talking about, we'll get into that sponsored deal, and we'll end Serie A talk on the 40th anniversary. Can you guess what the 40th anniversary of is? You got some time between now and when that comes on to talk about that. Anthony says, just getting tired of excuses coming from Furlani Cardinale. You and me both, brother. You and me both. Now, if we get into a third hour tonight, we'll do a reaction video to Schalke's tragic ending, that documentary I was going to do last week. We'll see how it goes. Again, I got a lot of things to edit tonight after the show, so we'll see how I'm feeling, right? Maybe we'll have enough beers. Let's keep going. We'll see. But we will start with Schalke tonight and go from there. All right, get to see that. Perfect. Okay, that's working good. All right. Yeah, let's get into the game. And Schalke are safe, barring a catastrophic result on Sunday where they lose by 14 goals. Barring that, Schalke are safe in the Bundesliga, or Zweite Liga, second division of German football. They're safe by no thanks to FC Schalke 04. The club did itself no favors in trying to survive. They did everything in their power to not survive. But thankfully, there were other results that happened that they made survival. Munster notwithstanding, playing like prime Spain, prime Barcelona, just beating down opponents all of a sudden out of nowhere with new man Christian Pander at the helm. But Schalke survive without, oh my goodness, backpedaling in. But we start with the game in Dusseldorf. All they got to do is get a point. 1 point. In the last 5 games, and they can't achieve that. Well, they lost again to Dusseldorf. Not the greatest of performances again. There was a goal in the first half, scored by Van Broderen. Got taken away from offsides. Schalke had a pretty good chance in, 25th minute or so under Musa Silla. Really weak shot, though, from him. 0-0 at halftime, and then David Kovnacki, really good player for a long time now, both in Serie A and second division German football. He got the goal in the 57th minute. Really poor defending by Schalke, and then in 20 minutes later after that, Van Broderen would get his goal again, tap-in goal, I think assisted by Kovnacki actually. So 2-0 game. Really lackluster game from Schalke, honestly. Look at the XGs, 1.51 for Dusseldorf, 0.58 for Schalke, and really that 0.58 is probably on that one shot that they had on one shot from Musa Silla. That really was not a really good attempt, honestly. Possession seemed like it was fairly 50-50, but really Schalke's possession was didn't have no substance to it. You look at statistics, everything will tell you that it's a close game, but it wasn't. They couldn't do what they had to do. Infuriating. And as a result, they lost. And the table is, well, let's look at the rest of the other games that kind of fell into place after that. So go to match day 33 here. Second to last match week. So, big game, top of the table. Köln against Nuremberg. Köln won their game, getting inching closer to promotion. The game I reference, Munster again continued to just not let up any goals and score goals at will. Won 2-0 against Hertha Berlin. Hertha Berlin could not do us a favor. There was our game against Dusseldorf. Lose that 2-0. But we had some results that did go our way. Paderborn did win against Magdeburg, but Eintracht Braunschweig did lose 3-0 to Elversberg, our next opponent. That was huge for us. We'll see why in a second. Hamburg, we got a scare. Ulm scored the first goal of the game. Ulm is obviously in relegation spot. Presently, they scored the first goal of the game. Looked like they were going to choke this game away. And they scored 6 consecutive goals to win emphatically 6-1 and earn promotion back into the Bundesliga, which feels like for 57 years, but it's really only like since 2016 or something. So they're back in the Bundesliga. We will have a Hamburg derby in the Bundesliga, which will be great to see them against St. Pauli. No Berlin derby, sorry, unless Union somehow choke the season away and get back into the second division. I hope not. So that game was kind of in our result. We needed Greuther Fürth to lose. They got a point, so that's not bad. Hanover got a point there, so that helped us. Kaiserslautern beat Darmstadt, and then Karlsruhe drew Regensburg. Anthony says Schalke didn't help themselves versus Dusseldorf. Exactly. I mean, you would have thought they would have had the game in the bag the way they were playing. No. But let's see how the table panned out after all that was said and done. As mentioned, Hamburg has been promoted. Köln is all but promoted. Elversberg are hot on the heels, as are Paderborn. Dusseldorf with an outside chance, but really these are the two teams right here. Schalke's next opponent is Elversberg, who are trying to be, if they get promoted, would be a really shocking story. A good story, because they kind of had a meteoric rise from the doldrums of German football with no budget, small stadium, 12,000 capacity stadium. And the rumor is if they do get promoted, their stadium's too small for the Bundesliga. So they're going to actually probably have to play in Saarbrücken or one of these other stadiums that are a little bit bigger that can hold a crowd, a proper crowd for Bundesliga games. So keep an eye on for that, but we'll see how that game goes. But let's talk about the results. So went our way. Braunschweig lost. So their goal differential is now -23 versus our -9. It's a 14 goal differential. So as long as we don't, between our two games on Sunday, there's no 14 goals favor in Braunschweig. We should be okay. So I think we're all but safe here. Munster, again, continues to win here in Greuther Fürth. Doesn't matter at this point. Schalke just backpedaling their way into survival. It's pretty pathetic. No guts, no nothing. It's pathetic. Pathetic. Hence why I'm drinking. It's infuriating how there's no heart to this team. This team's going to have a big turnover. Come the off season, we'll see what Frank Baumann can produce. But man, it was a abysmal performance, and so not much to say on the game. It's pretty pathetic, I said, as overall. But all eyes will be pointing to the summer with Frank Baumann and the new coach. Who will that new coach be? Well, in the game against Dusseldorf, one of the guys whose names have been in circulation about who could possibly be is Marcus Anfang, and he was in attendance in the game. And we've seen in the past when a manager or an exec attends a Schalke game, they usually are the next person hired by the club. Now, say what you want to say about Marcus Anfang as the next manager. He's okay. He's an okay choice, as we talked about the reaction video last week with Alex GE. He's a fine selection, but I think there's more smoke to this than not. We've seen in the past where, like, Horst Held and Armin Vey were always seen together, even though they were just really good friends, and that's what happened there. And so apparently Marcus Anfang came to watch his best friend, a good friend, Ben Manga, and so he was there, supporting Ben Manga and having a good time and relaxing, not really Schalke related. Even Andy Ernst has even said, like, there's more smoke than fire to this. Is not really expecting him to be the next manager. We'll see. Anything can happen, but Marcus Anfang was in attendance. He was spotted, and so obviously some eyes are drawn to that now. Like, is he the guy? We'll see. I think most of us don't want him to be the next manager. Not that there's anything wrong with him, but there's some more juicier choices, I guess, of who could be the next manager. There's a certain style profile that Baumann has said he's looking for. Anfang does fit this, but we'll see. We'll see what goes on with this, but to be determined. But before we get into that, we do have a little press coverage we need to get to. It's Jakob Fimpel's last as Schalke head trainer for now, right? Barring any future promotions and we'll see what happens from there. But let's see. Checking the chats here. But while I do that, let's go ahead and get the press coverage going and let me know how the sound is on the video. Let's go.
Bei Bundesliga, herzlich willkommen heute am Freitagmittag zu unserer Pressekonferenz hier im Medienzentrum der Felddienstarena. Begrüße sehr herzlich alle anwesenden Medienvertreter. Begrüße Jakob Fimpel neben mir auf dem Podium, der gleich für eure Fragen zur Verfügung steht. An dieser Stelle geben wir gerne noch einmal bekannt, was wir vorhin schon auf unseren digitalen Plattformen veröffentlicht haben. Wir freuen uns auf die weitere Zusammenarbeit mit Juri Mölder als Direktor Profifußball. Juri ist ja im Spätherbst des vergangenen Jahres dazugestoßen, zunächst interimistisch, jetzt also bis 2027 die Verlängerung. Wir freuen uns sehr, dass Juri an Bord bleibt. Das ist eine Personalie. Jakob, wir gucken auf den Sonntag.
He already kind of blew up one of my spot with one of my news bits here with the news about Yuri Mulder, but yeah.
Im Spiel gegen Elversberg. Wie sieht das Personal bei deiner Mannschaft aus?
Ja, hallo auch von mir. Und einzusteigen mit dem Personal macht auf jeden Fall Sinn, weil wir leider heute nochmal einen schmerzlichen Ausfall verkraften müssen. Das tut mir persönlich weh, weil er es gut gemacht hat. Der Tidi Touré hat sich leider gerade im Training nochmal verletzt. Da müssen wir jetzt abwarten, was die Bilder sagen.
We can't not get any luck, right? We just called up Tidi Touré to the senior squad and he gets injured in practice. Not that it's going to help anymore right now, but we got some other strikers coming along that might help us out. But man, Tidi Touré not going to be available.
Aber ist auf jeden Fall so, dass er ausfallen wird. Ansonsten haben wir die gleichen Ausfälle wie letzte Woche. Yannick Bachmann wird weiter ausfallen, Thomas Kallas auch. Paul Seguin steht auch nicht zur Verfügung. Und
Kallas
dann
out.
kam diese Woche noch
Seguin out.
Heulund dazu, der ist krank und wird es auch fürs Spiel oder jetzt für das Spiel nicht schaffen.
Heulund is sick.
Can I confess something, Lama?
I'm all ears.
Since you recommended Monday to
Commercial.
eye blocks, word got so...
All right, back.
Das Spiel am Sonntag ist ein gutes Stichwort.
So it sounds like one of those situations too. Like, okay, a lot of people aren't available because of injury and this and that. But it's all but certain that we're surviving, right? So maybe it's time to put up some younger blood, some fresh faces, and see what do we have for next year. That's kind of the impression I'm getting. Maybe just a coincidence how everything's fallen into place, but that's the impression I get.
Anstoßzeit diesmal besonders 15:30 Uhr am Sonntagnachmittag hier bei uns in der Felddienstarena gegen Elversberg. Ich möchte einmal kurz auf die Verabschiedung hinweisen, die wir etwa 14:40 Uhr vor dem Spiel durchführen werden. Das ist dann vor dem Warmmachen der Mannschaften. Wir verabschieden die Spieler, wo feststeht, dass sie über den Sommer hinaus nicht als Spieler beim FC Schalke 04 bleiben werden. Also Mehmetcan Aydin, Marcin Kaminski, Tobias Mohr, Michael Langer, Ralf Fährmann, Dominik Drexler und auch Eamon Barkok. Das sind die 7 Spieler, die wir am Sonntag, wie gesagt, 14:40 Uhr vor dem Spiel verabschieden werden. Einstieg nun in die Fragerunde. Der Finger von Dirk Große-Schlamann ist schon oben. Dirk, hallo.
Glück auf. Jakob, wie viel Sorge hast du oder habt ihr vor dem Spiel am Sonntag, weil ja es droht, die schlechteste Platzierung seit Jahrzehnten, wahrscheinlich sogar der Vereinsgeschichte, halbwegs zu werden, zumindest im normalen Ligabetrieb. Es droht der Abrutsch in den zweiten DFB-Pokaltopf und. Spielt das irgendwo in euren Köpfen eine Rolle?
Es ist weniger die Sorge jetzt über irgendeine Tabellenkonstellation oder über irgendein Abschneiden von den letzten Jahren. Dass wir keine gute Saison spielen, ist klar, sondern es geht in allererster Linie mal um die Leistung am Sonntag gegen Elversberg und die muss besser sein als gegen Düsseldorf.
Marcus, I see your comment there. Good to have you here. Yeah, Leao and Teo, their time might be coming to an end. But with Schalke here presently, the question was, how do you feel about going into this game? Because this is essentially the worst season in Schalke history, in their entire history. How do you feel about that? He's like, well, I don't know about too much about that, but, we're going to do our best to, have a better performance against Elversberg than against Düsseldorf. And it's like, he's trying to skirt around it as best he can in his schoolboy way. But, yeah, this is the worst season in Schalke history for the most part. There's some obviously some times are really dark. Some scandals are really dark. But this is up there in terms of the worst seasons ever. This is a pretty bad team at the moment. Pretty bad team.
Andreas Ernst, Funke. Oder, Entschuldigung, Nachfrage zunächst von Dirk. Das Mikrofon ist da. Dirk zunächst.
Danke, Andi. Stimmt dich da irgendwas positiv?
Ja, ich denke schon. Also wir haben es ehrlich aufgearbeitet. Ich kann jetzt keine großen Themen mehr irgendwo in der Mannschaft verändern, sondern es geht um wirkliche Kleinigkeiten, die man jetzt noch voranbringen kann. Die Köpfe sind voll, 2 Wochen vor Saisonende irgendeine Mannschaft zu übernehmen. Das sind wirklich Nuancen, die man dann noch machen kann, was erstmal inhaltlich angeht. Aber es geht einfach darum, dass wir das aus dem Training halt auch irgendwann mal auf den Platz bringen. Grundsätzlich war die Trainingsleistung vor dem Spiel gegen Düsseldorf deutlich besser als das Spiel. Deswegen war ich auch so enttäuscht, dass wir es einfach nicht geschafft haben, auch so die Intensität allein auf den Platz zu bringen gegen Düsseldorf. Und ja, das sollte auf jeden Fall jetzt am Sonntag anders sein.
Andreas.
Yeah, he said basically, they look good in practice, but on the pitch they sucked. Yeah, well, welcome to 2024-25 season for Schalke. It's pretty emphatic there. And he's like, look, I can't really make any big changes on the team. It's like, it is what it is now. I don't have the authority to make any of those big changes right now. That was just cleaning up the little details. Hopefully, allow us to play better in this next game than we did against Düsseldorf. Not much.
Medien.
Baust du denn deine Startelf um? Du hast ja 2 aus deiner U23 mitgenommen. Was ist mit Pierre Lasogga? Ist ja eine sehr bekannte Personalie. Wird er im Kader sein? Wird er vielleicht sogar spielen? Und warum hast du ihn dazu genommen?
Good question there about Pierre Lasogga, striker, well-known striker.
Ja, beide. Also eigentlich mit Tidi Touré 3. Erklärt sich allein schon durch die Auswahlliste. Also der Kader ist aufs Minimum reduziert. Wir haben jetzt genau 18 Spieler. Eamon Bakok wird kein Teil des Kaders sein. Dementsprechend haben wir den 18-Mann-Kader, genau das, was im Training sind.
Essentially the same with all the names he just mentioned that are in an injury list. Like, we're in an 18-man squad, essentially. So the 3 players that he brought up from the U23s, well, minus Tidi Touré, you got 2 players. There's probably a good chance that they're going to get on the pitch, especially if you want to evaluate how they're doing. Can they be of service to you next year?
Alle sind im Kader, die fit sind. Und da ist der Pierre und der Pierre-Michel Lasogga und Yassin Benballa schon mit eingerechnet. Werden beide mit dabei sein und sind auf jeden Fall auch eine Option. Beide haben super trainiert aus meiner Sicht. Und Pierre hat genau das gemacht, was ich von ihm erwartet habe. Er ist einfach heiß auf so eine Situation, hat die Woche viele Tore gemacht und ist sicherlich nicht in der Verfassung, körperlich nach den vielen Verletzungen jetzt irgendwie 90 Minuten dann auf einmal 2. Liga zu spielen. Aber ich habe vorher mit ihm nochmal gesprochen, er fühlt sich besser als ganz lang davor und ja, versprüht auf jeden Fall viel Energie und dann schauen wir mal, wie das Spiel läuft.
Marcel Witte, Ruhr 24.
Dann direkt die Anschlussfrage daran, du hast jetzt schon viel über Pierre gesagt, kannst du noch ein bisschen über Benballa erzählen, was bringt er mit und was kann er eurem Spiel auch geben?
Ja, grundsätzlich habe ich erstmal geschaut, dadurch, dass der Kader klein ist, welche Positionen müssen wir noch irgendwie ersetzen oder wo können wir noch was machen. Und letzte Woche war es Mertschan, der mit dabei war, dadurch, dass wir mit Felipe dann noch einen Ausfall hatten, Felipe Sanchez. Felipe ist wieder zurück, hat ganz normal trainiert, aber durch Seguin und Bachmann fehlen natürlich beide Sechser und dann ist
Oh no, we're probably gonna see Felipe Sanchez.
alleine und dementsprechend habe ich Yassin dazu
Not that it
geholt.
makes a difference. Can't get any worse, I
Yassin ist
guess.
ein Spieler, der
Oh man, that's good.
einfach das
Could lose by 14.
was wir jetzt auch brauchen. Also er läuft einfach bei uns jedes Mal seine 13 Kilometer, geht in jeden Zweikampf und hat das diese Woche auch hier gemacht, ist topfit und bringt natürlich auch durch seine Erfahrungen, ähnlich wie Pierre, natürlich eine ganz andere Basis mit für so eine Situation, für so ein Spiel, als jetzt ein ganz, ganz junger Spieler.
Der große Schlammer.
Jakob, die Mannschaft hat in dieser Saison häufiger mal den Frust der Fans abbekommen, in den letzten Spielen auch. Jetzt in Düsseldorf war auch der Support eingestellt. Jetzt schreiben die Ultras auf ihrer Seite, dass das am Wochenende alles nicht für die Mannschaft auf dem Rasen, sondern nur für uns auf den Rängen ist. Das viel deutlicher kann man sich nicht, glaube ich, von der Mannschaft distanzieren. Wie kommt das in der Kabine an? Oder merkst du, dass das ein Thema bei den Spielern ist?
Ja, kann ich wenig zu sagen. Also grundsätzlich die Einzelgespräche gingen jetzt mehr um das Inhaltliche, mehr um das, was wir am Sonntag machen wollen, als das Ganze drumherum, was das Einzige ist aus meiner Sicht, was ich beeinflussen kann. Also ich kann das große Ganze drumherum, das kriege ich nicht in den Griff. Ich kriege auch keine Fans auf irgendeine Seite wieder gezogen, sondern das passiert am Ende über das, was wir am Sonntag auf dem Platz machen. Und deswegen geht meine ganze Energie, jede Sekunde, was ich die 2 Wochen gemacht habe, in jedes Training, in das, was wir am Sonntag auf dem Platz machen.
I mean, yeah, he says he can't really control anything on the pitch and what the fans do and everything, but you can, like you get good results, consecutive results, the fans will be back on your side. Like, the fans are frustrated, rightly so. We're pissed off at what the season has become. It's been a shit show from top to bottom. And so, only way to resolve it is by winning on the pitch. Nothing else.
Norbert Neubaum.
Für Ihren Gegner geht es am Sonntag um den Aufstieg, Relegationsplatz, eventuell sogar um den direkten Aufstieg. Was erwarten Sie für eine Elversberger Mannschaft? In der Hinrunde hat Schalke dort klar gewonnen. Es war eines der besten Spiele der Saison. Was macht Elversberg so stark?
Ja, es ist eine ähnliche.
Didn't we win 5-1 against Elversberg early in the year?
Das war für Düsseldorf eben auch ein Endspiel. Hat man auch deutlich gemerkt, so die erste Viertelstunde, 20 Minuten, wir hatten kaum eine Situation, wo wir mal am Ball waren. Und das darf uns am Sonntag auf jeden Fall nicht passieren. Es ist natürlich klar, dass es für Elversberg eine große Chance ist. Sie spielen eine super Saison, haben super Abläufe in der Offensive, haben ein gutes Zusammenspiel, eine gute Bindung zueinander. Aber nochmal, also wir können jetzt den Gegner loben für eine tolle Saison, aber in erster Linie geht es einfach darum, dass wir uns besser präsentieren als letzte Woche gegen Düsseldorf. Und wir hatten so eine kleine Phase dann nach der 1-0-Führung von Düsseldorf, wo der Gegner dann auch auf einmal gemerkt hat, dass er was zu verlieren hatte, wo wir ein bisschen aufgekommen sind, aber da waren wir einfach zu harmlos und nicht giftig genug, sowas dann auch mal zu nutzen. Und ja, der Spielverlauf ist schon wichtig jetzt, dass wir am Sonntag da deutlich besser reinkommen.
Nächste Frage kommt von Andi Ernst.
Ich habe 2 Fragen. Die erste ist eine bestimmte Personalfrage. Michael Langer beendet nach so vielen Jahren seine Karriere. Bekommt er von dir seinen Abschiedseinsatz am letzten Spieltag? Und zweite Frage, du hast jetzt sowohl die Innen- als auch die Außensicht auf diese Mannschaft. Wie würdest du dir nach deinen Eindrücken erklären, warum ist diese Saison mit dieser Mannschaft so missraten?
Good question.
Dann nehme ich mal die einfache Frage zuerst. Die andere ist ja weitaus tiefgreifender. Michael Langer kann ich das Spiel leider nicht geben, auch wenn ich das gern machen würde, weil er einfach wirklich die letzten Jahre einen großen Anteil hatte. Auch wenn man das vielleicht von außen gar nicht so viel sieht, aber er ist permanent aktiv in der Mannschaft. Er hat einen großen Stellenwert, ist in der Kabine sehr wichtig. Aber wir werden jetzt für so ein Spiel, allein jetzt auch die Tragweite der Situation, es gibt ja ganz viele andere Mannschaften, die da auch noch mit drauf schauen, wird der Justin ganz normal weiterspielen. Hat letzte Woche auch das gehalten, was er halten konnte. Und die andere Situation, das ist wirklich eine Frage, die wirklich viel, viel breiter aufgestellt ist als das, was ich jetzt hier sagen kann. Und deswegen will ich dazu jetzt auch gar nichts sagen.
Alright, that is it. Not too much from Herr Fimpel. But yeah, he said.
Habt ihr weitere Fragen an Jan?
I turned it back on there. Something he said was pretty interesting to me. Talking about Elversberg and like they're in a position to try to get promotion, right? They're currently third. They're in the holding position right here, right now with Paderborn. And I don't know who Paderborn has. We'll look at see who they got too. But look at the goal differential, plus 13 for them. So like, Elversberg do what they got to do. They're promoted. They're gonna be a motivated team. We beat them 5-1 in the first half of the season. So you would imagine that they're gonna do everything in their power to get a result tomorrow or this weekend, I should say. And Paderborn, who are they playing? Paderborn are playing Karlsruhe. So it's a tougher opponent than us. Karlsruhe are going to put up more of a fight than we will, right? And they have to go to Karlsruhe. I mean, Elversberg has to come to Schalke, but considering how the last several games have gone, it's a pushover, honestly. So the question is, how much does Elversberg want it? I think I can easily see them. You know, obviously they want to get revenge. Obviously they want to get promoted. But I think if they go up 2-0, I think they're just going to set up shop and close it out. I don't see them trying to go for goals because they got a plus 13 goal differential. They have one of the best defenses in the league. They have one of the best offenses in the league. It's just such a really well managed team, you know. So I think, you know, if you're looking at all the teams in this fight, the Liga outside of Cologne and Hamburg, they fully deserve to go up, right? I just want to see a better performance. We haven't shown anything in the last month and a half outside of the one game against Hertha or whatever. We've really shown not Hertha, Hamburg. Outside of that, we've really shown nothing. So it's been an abysmal performance to end the season. Not the way. It's like the opposite how we ended the Hinrunde. The Rückrunde is the complete opposite. So we'll see how it goes. You know, barring a catastrophic game. I mean, obviously Elversberg, they lose or draw and Paderborn win. Paderborn's in. So Elversberg will do everything in their power to try to win that game. And I think once they have a comfortable lead, they're gonna tie down and make sure they don't allow any more goals. So, yeah. All right, let's see. They kind of ruined my next bit in the press conference, but it is about Yuri Mulder. He is coming back next year. It says Yuri Mulder to remain as Schalke's director of professional football. Schalke and Yuri Mulder will continue their cooperation, with 56-year-old taking up a permanent position as the club's director of professional football until June 2027. Mulder had previously been in the role on an interim basis since November, having also been a co-opted member of the supervisory board. So that's interesting that he's not going back to the supervisory board. He's going to stay in this role. Now, the one thing I will say about Yuri Mulder, he's great in front of the camera. So if you're going to keep him, just keep him in front of the camera, because he'll do more in this position than he does on the supervisory board, then so be it. Article says, from the start, I had been aiming to keep Yuri on board as a key member of my leadership team. After taking up the position on an interim basis last autumn, he has already helped initiate plenty of changes and helped to professionalize various processes. We will now continue down this path together in order to establish the best possible conditions for sporting success, said Frank Baumann, who will take a position as the club's board member for sport from June 1st. Yuri's primary task will be to head up the various departments that fall under our professional performance center and to continue developing these areas. As he prepares to take on this challenge, Mulder is brimming with motivation. I'm really looking forward to having long-term responsibility at Schalke. We must have some major challenges ahead and of us, and we want to get back to playing a more successful brand of football again next term. Our fans have been left disappointed on too many occasions off the back of performances and results. We are all aware of the fact that many things need improving when reflecting on the past campaign. The overall analysis is clear, and therefore we will work consistently on making changes going forward in order to ensure Schalke's outlook is positive once more. Mulder reflects on his 30-year connection with the Royal Blues. The former striker made the transfer from FC Twente to Schalke in the summer of '93, playing for the Knappen until 2002. Mulder made a total of 202 competitive appearances during this period, scoring 43 goals, providing another 29 assists. The Dutchman celebrated winning the UEFA Cup in 1997 before clinching the DP Pokal in 2001 and 2002. Mulder served as an assistant coach to Fred Rutten in July 2028 to March 2009. July 2008, I should say, to March 2009, while also forming part of the interim coaching staff under Mike Buskins before and after the spell. In 2021, Mulder returned to Schalke to operate as a member of the supervisory board. Yeah, so he gets an extension. He will be continuing his position. Again, if he keeps Ben Mang out of the spotlight, does the bidding for Frank Baumann and continues to, at least in front of the cameras, do good things, that makes sense, I guess. All right, let's get more into some team news, but not current team news, former team news. This is going to be the Swan Song section coming up here. So we're going to start with Guido Burgstaller. We talked about last week. He made his return, and obviously he had the dire situation where he was attacked during the Christmas markets. Got a guy tried to pick a fight with him, bashed his skull in, nearly killed him. Recovered, came back last week. Played whatever, I don't know, 5 minutes or something. Ended the game, whatever. He's back with Rapid Vienna. But through the club, he made a statement, and this is reflecting for next year and going forward.
Ich sitze jetzt da, ich glaube, vor meiner schwersten Aufgabe, die ich bis jetzt so erlebt habe und vor mir habe. Ich habe mich immer sehr, sehr gefürchtet vor diesem Moment, so ehrlich bin ich. Ich hatte immer ein bisschen Angst davor, aber es trifft leider jeden Fußballer einmal. Und wenn mir jemand gesagt hätte vor 20, 25 Jahren, als ich noch in Kärnten Fußball gespielt habe, dass ich jetzt mit 36 Jahren da sitzen darf beim SK Rapid und mein Karriereende bekannt zu geben, dann hätte ich diese Reise nie für möglich gehalten. Es war immer ein großes Privileg für mich, für diesen Verein zu spielen. Es war eine wunderschöne Zeit. Ich habe viele tolle Menschen kennenlernen dürfen, viele Momente aufsaugen dürfen mit euch. Ihr habt mich in guten wie in schlechten Zeiten immer unterstützt. Diese Liebe habe ich immer gespürt und diese Liebe wollte ich euch immer zurückgeben. Ich habe es geliebt, für eure Form aufzulaufen. Ich habe es geliebt, für euch am Rasen zu stehen. Ich habe es geliebt, euer Kapitän zu sein. Und dafür will ich mir einfach nur vom Herzen Danke sagen. Danke für alles, für die ganzen Jahre, die ich bei euch sein habe dürfen. Ich möchte mich auch bei meinen Mitspielern bedanken, bei den Mitarbeitern, bei meinen ganzen Trainern, bei den Physios, bei den Ärzten. Alle, mit denen ich was zu tun gehabt habe, die ich tagtäglich gesehen habe, mit denen ich tagtäglich gearbeitet habe. Ja, ich will einfach nur noch ausdrucken, dass es sicher der schwerste Moment in meiner Karriere ist und ich euch sehr, sehr vermissen werde und ich immer grün-weiß im Herzen tragen werde. Und ich hoffe einfach, dass ihr mich auch ein bisschen vermissen werdet. Macht es gut. Tschüss.
Those words from Guido Burgstaller officially retiring. Unfortunate, but he deserves it. Like Anthony says, good to see he survived and is still alive and standing. He wanted to work hard to come back. Whether the injury has something to do with it or he was going to retire anyway at the end of the season, I do not know. But, it's unfortunate that obviously that happened to him. But he came back, and now he can, at least in his own way, sitting there under his own power, saying I'm retiring versus saying from a bedside or worse, right? Not saying it. So, long career for him. He started at Rapid Vienna and played multiple places. Obviously played it here at Schalke. That's why we're talking about him today. And St. Pauli and other places too. But you know, he's a Rapid Vienna guy, and obviously he cares about it. And he's, you know, he'll be missed for sure. Glad to see he's doing better, physically, healthy, mentally, all that stuff. But it's his time, so wish him the best of luck. We're gonna stay on that kind of beat here because he's not the only one who's retiring. Well, I don't know if this next guy's retiring, but he's leaving Schalke, so. And I'm talking about Ralf Fährmann. As this poster puts, like him or hate him, you can't deny his loyalty to the club when it is at its worst. What better way to end the controversies and send him off with none other than a cake? And here's a little video here. Ein Leben lang. It's just a quick video here, but eating cake, nice going away cake. Looks good. I'm getting hungry. All right, like Guido Burgstaller, Ralf Fährmann made a video. Now, if you don't speak German, it's fine. It's okay. There's captions there translated for you. Right here, just to the right, so you can follow along in English while he goes ahead and says his last bit here.
Liebe Freunde, liebe Fans, liebe Familie, lieber Verein. Einmal Schalker, immer Schalker. Von klein auf war der Ball mein bester Freund, der Platz mein Zuhause. Ich habe ihn geliebt, gehasst, auf ihm gelacht, geweint, geblutet und nie losgelassen. Mit genau 14 Jahren begann meine Fußballreise. Meine Eltern erhielten damals einen Anruf vom FC Schalke 04. Ein Moment, der mein Leben für immer verändern sollte. Die Freude war unbeschreiblich. Mein Traum wurde Realität. Seit über 20 Jahren trage ich nun das königsblaue Herz in mir. In meinen Adern fließt blau-weißes Blut. Manchmal heiß, manchmal laut, aber immer voller Liebe. Ich habe mein Leben diesem Verein geschenkt. Vom Kind zum Erwachsenen, vom hart erkämpften Jungen zum Kapitän. Jeder Schritt war ein Kampf, jeder Rückschlag eine Lektion. Nicht geboren mit dem Talent, sondern geformt mit Wille, Disziplin und unermüdlicher Arbeit. Ich erinnere mich an die ersten Schritte im Verein. An das Zittern vor dem ersten Spiel. An das Ziehen in der Brust, wenn das Steigerlied lief und das Stadion bebte. Ich erinnere mich an die Freude, wenn wir gewannen, und an die Stille in der Kabine, wenn wir verloren. Mit Stolz, Ehre und Würde habe ich das Trikot getragen. Jeden einzelnen Tag habe ich alles für Schalke gegeben. Es war eine wilde Reise, geprägt von Rückschlägen und Erfolgen, von Schmerz und Euphorie. Genauso ist der Fußball, genauso ist das Leben. Was ich in all den Jahren gelernt habe: Loyalität, Aufrichtigkeit, Ehrlichkeit und niemals seine Werte zu verlieren. Denn am Ende des Tages musste ich mir selbst in die Augen schauen können. Und ich kann sagen, ich habe immer alles gegeben. Nach jeder Verletzung kam ich stärker zurück. Immer. Ich habe viele Menschen kommen und gehen sehen. Manche hinterließen bleibende Spuren, andere nur verbrannte Erde. Aber ich bin geblieben. Ich habe überlebt. Und ich konnte mich immer auf euch Fans verlassen. Ihr habt mir Halt gegeben und Energie, immer weiterzumachen. Ich habe viele Menschen kennengelernt. Ich habe Herzen berührt und mein eigenes oft verloren. Aber ich bereue keinen einzigen Tag. Man sagt, der Fußball schreibt Geschichten. Meine Geschichte war wild, sie war laut und sie war echt. Seit meiner Jugend träumte ich davon, einmal in der Arena auf dem Rasen zu stehen. Daraus wurden über 100 Spiele in allen Wettbewerben in unserer Arena. Das Tragen der Kapitänsbinde war die größte Ehre meines Lebens. Heute blicke ich zurück, nicht mit Wehmut, sondern mit Stolz. Denn ich weiß, ich habe alles gegeben für diesen Verein, für diesen Traum. Und auch wenn meine aktive Zeit auf Schalke endet, meine Liebe bleibt. Denn was tief in einem brennt, das kann niemand löschen. Und nun ist es Zeit, Danke zu sagen. Ich verabschiede mich mit den Worten: Einmal Schalker, immer Schalker. Glück auf, euer Ralle.
All right, so there's a video from Ralph Fährmann. Yeah, nice words by him. It's funny, during the press conference they had talked about Michel Langer. Would this be his? He's also leaving the club. Would he get a chance to play his last game or start his last game? And Fimpel's like, no, that would be a nice story, but no, he can be on the bench, but he's not gonna start. Hecker is gonna see this one out. Fährmann is another one you would probably want to see him get his last game, but unfortunately, that's not gonna happen. Him and Drexler kind of went the same way in terms of the club's eye. But good that Schalke's giving him the farewell he deserves. He's absolutely a Schalke legend and should be getting him, so best luck to him, like Anthony says, in his future. I do want to show, obviously when you see these kind of things, whenever somebody leaves the club, especially someone like Ralph Fährmann, look at the comments. You got Amin Harit, Keenan Carmen, Simon Taroda, Kaminsky, Hacker, and Kalajiri. Rabine is the photographer, but it's Timo Becker, Thomas Oleon. I mean, so many people commenting on this. So obviously a beloved Schalke player. Fans will adore him absolutely, and still do despite everything that happened. So yeah, Schalke will be bidding farewell to him, and not only him. Like I said, there's 7 others. The question on the Discord was that, okay, look, these are all the names that we're not going to be seeing next year, right? Michel Langer, Toby Moore, Ayman Barkok, Dominic Drexler, Mehmetcan Aydin, Ralph Fährmann, and Marcin Kaminsky. All 7 of those guys will be gone, but we're talking about in the Discord is are they all going to get farewells? We didn't know this before this tweet came out. We're I was like, everyone's got to be having a farewell except for Barkok. Drexler is iffy, right? He's been in the club a long time, but you would imagine yes, because he's going to be a coach with the youth team next year with U15s or U17s. So you imagine he's going to be given a farewell. Fährmann obviously is a Schalke legend, no matter what you may think of him now. He's an absolute legend, deserves a farewell. And then, while you're at it, Toby, Kaminsky, and Aydin and Langer, they all deserve one too. So would you just not give it to Barkok? Barkok's the only one that doesn't deserve it. His first year, left in bad taste. He's been exiled from the senior team. You would think he wouldn't get one, but Schalke has too much class to not give him one. So all 7 of these gentlemen will be getting a farewell on their game on Sunday. So there you go. Class over true feelings, I guess. So do you expect anything less from Schalke? No, not at all. Not at all. All right, where are we at now? Let's see. I got a couple more things here in the news front. Let's see if this is working. Okay. All right, so there's a bunch of names we had revealed last week. We already knew that the main 5, but Alex GE had mentioned 15, 16 names, right? All good names. There's another name to throw in the mix here. Curious on the thoughts. That is Rene Maric. He is the Bayern Munich assistant manager. Austrian. He likes a 4-3-3 attacking formation. He's been assistant manager since just this season. Before that was a U19 coach, U19 development coach, U19 manager. Essentially worked his way up through the ranks. Was even at Dortmund as an assistant manager before. Jesse Marsch there and Gladbach. So he's been around. The question is, would you want him at Schalke? He's related to Bayern, so obviously it's got to be good, right? Look. Maybe he'll turn out to be a fine manager. Maybe he'll go the route of Xabi Alonso or Zinedine Zidane and have his fantastic start to his career and blossom, right? But Baumann literally just told us last week his profile is German speaking. Yeah, he gets that. Attacking football, to be determined. Experience in the Zweite Liga and Bundesliga. Doesn't really have that, does he? He's been assistant manager in the Bundesliga. No idea what the second division. Second division is an animal in a lot of leagues, right? We talked about this last week. Germany, Italy, England. The second divisions are super tough. And so you got to know how to navigate those waters. So if you've never experienced it before, doesn't mean you're going to do well. Doesn't mean you're going to do well. So I do want him. He could be a fine coach one day. Maybe someone to keep an eye on. But for me, that's a hard pass. Absolutely not. Yeah, he has the names of... I mean, look at it again. Look at the names. Yeah, he's currently at Bayern. And has leads in his resume in Dortmund and Gladbach and Salzburg. But, like, again, on the youth level, you want to bring him to the youth academy. Okay, that's one thing. As long as you don't replace Norbert Elgert, right? But it's a hard pass for me. Anthony says Rene doesn't provide any experience as a manager, so he doesn't give any guarantees. Yeah, exactly. And it's not a time to experiment. The club is going through one of its worst years in its history. They said that they have a 3-year goal of getting back to the Bundesliga. Next year is that 3rd year. They got basically a whole upheaval from sporting director on down. Not the time to experiment with a coach now. You got to have an experienced coach who knows how to navigate the waters of the 2nd division and 1st division if you eventually get there. And so, hard pass for me for Rene Maric. All right, let's see. A couple more topics on Schalke before we get on out of here. All right, so this is an interesting comment that I saw on social media. And so it goes, what consequences would you like to see after this season? Obviously, this has been an abysmal season, a terrible season for Schalke. What are the consequences of having such a poor season? So this commenter said, this is the worst season in the club in modern Bundesliga times, a new low, still kind of unbelievable. Some thoughts. Manga and Tillman both bear a direct responsibility for this disaster. They put together a team and got a coach, Kees van Wonderen, that ended in the worst season result ever, nearly relegated to Dritte Liga. We would have deserved to get relegated. No life in this team, no passion, nothing. I would give Ben Manga another chance. Maybe it works with Baumann being his supervisor. But I think above all, Axel Heffer needs to go. He's been at the helm for 4 years and everything got worse. He is a top guy and thus he should bear the responsibility. I know people want stability, but after a season like this, you can't just continue. There need to be consequences. So what do you think? Does this need to happen now? We'll get into Axel Heffer in a moment. Hey, Synchroners in the house. Alex E, that's the guy who streams from his boy's bedroom, right? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know where he streams from, but yes, that is Alex Kirsten, Alex GE. Good to have you. What do you think, Asynchroners? What are the consequences should be of this team? You have good opinions on Schalke. What are your thoughts? Like I said, I'm holding off on Axel Heffer for right now. But Tillman, Manga, I think they should be on short straws. Give it a season under Frank Baumann to see if they can correct themselves. And if not, they should part ways with the club. You can say, Manga and company, this is a trying year, but didn't have a sporting director. They were stupid enough to think that they don't need a sporting director, and quickly this year they found out they do need a sporting director. So I'm going to give them a very, very short leash for those two, but there has to be consequences. There has to be consequences. I think Baumann needs time to implement whatever he's going to implement. Manga, short leash. Absolutely short leash. A lot of his decisions have been questionable. And Tillman, too. Tillman's had a lot of oopsies this season. Stuff that he's had to learn the hard way. It's different from the business world. And so he's got to figure shit out. And Manga, too. And they're not the only ones. Singer says, really don't know anymore. We'll dress up in white to sing in the arena Sunday and hope you don't have to sink to the bottom. Yeah. Hopefully we don't lose by 14 goals, and then I think we'll be okay. But we've seen crazier things this year, so I don't know. Enjoy the game. Well, that's my piece on Tillman and Manga. Now, Axel Heffer, where does he stand on that? Well, he's got his own He, Axel Heffer, chairman of our supervisory board, is also the CEO of Tipico, which is a betting company. So, on Reddit, the question is, couldn't something that easily lead to distortion of competition? What are your opinions on this? I haven't decided on into the topic that deeply yet, but I thought I'd ask. So essentially, Axel Heffer, CEO from June 2024 till present. He was previously the chief operating officer from November 23 to June 30. So essentially, he's holding two jobs now. Obviously, he's the Schalke CEO, or chairman, excuse me. So the question is that double dipping? Is that a conundrum? Obviously, Schalke are sucking, but the idea is he's in charge of the betting company. He can lead to the direct results of Schalke throwing games, enhancing his balance and his customers' balance. I hope he runs Tipico better than he runs Schalke. It's possible. I mean, betting is another animal where betting companies, they make so much money from so many games. I'm sure if there was even some kind of match fixing or anything like that, it'd be negligible in the grand scheme of things. But yes, you can see how it would be a direct conflict with this. But I don't know how it applies to executive management. I don't know. So yeah, it's interesting to see that he is the CEO of Tipico. I'm curious to see their finances. I'm curious to see his finances. Honestly, how is he benefiting from both of this? Obviously, more monetarily, he is from the current contracts or both. But yeah, I don't know. I think Axel Heffer is also another one on a short leash. Can they afford anybody to replace him? They've tried many times they've had outsiders trying to come in and flip the supervisory board. Always unsuccessful. Remember, there was that one group that tried to get Ralph Rangnick in his cohorts. There was a big push for that, but it ended up never happening. It's hard. It's hard. There's no doubt about it that under Axel Heffer for the 4 years, Schalke's just going straight down, right? Somebody's got to pay for that. He's got to be on a short leash too. I mean, yeah, you can oust him, but who would you bring in? Who can they afford? I don't know. The only person it seems like on the supervisory board is pulling their weight at the moment is maybe Christina Rule-Hammers, because the finances are getting slowly better, right? But I don't know. I think all of them, the whole lot, outside of Baumann, are on a short leash, and fans are frustrated with them. Anthony says Ben Manga sounds like Giorgio Furlani. Both guys thought that their clubs didn't need a sporting director. Yeah, and both have suffered, especially Schalke, but Milan as well. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right, do I have one more thing here? All right, let's talk Knapenschmiede. Right, and this last one comes from Reddit as well. And I think we all know the answer to this, but let's go ahead and ask it anyway. How does Schalke maintain such a high quality and standard in their youth academy, even with all the financial and performance-wise problems that the club is going through? Feels crazy how even in a bad period that they still made young talents that go into the bigger stages. Asking from a genuine ignorance and curiosity, this person says. I think we all know the answer to that. It's Norbert Elgert, right? That's it. He's been the one who's been doing it. Now, the question is, are the talents as good as they once were? No. But they're still producing some things, right? And it's still a highly rated youth academy. One of the commenters had a pretty good synopsis of it. The simple short answer is probably Norbert Elgert. The U19 coach is something like Jurgen Klopp for youth football. There are many who come explicitly because of him, and a number of former players praise him to the skies. Financially, it's a bit more complicated, as far as I know, this person is saying. Membership fees from clubs have to go directly to social clauses, which includes youth football. As we're all well positioned here, the budget for the youth team is covered. In addition, many things are not as professional as they appear on the outside, i.e. many jobs below minimum wages for C youth coaches and lower. In addition, we are relatively well known for youth football and talented players who make it up to the top. The reputation of the U19s remains independent of the first team, but not forever. We need to go into more detail here and see whether we are really producing the same high-quality talent as we did a few years ago. Özil, Noir, and Wonderen, even if he didn't make the breakthrough with us, we're all from Gelsenkirchen, and people from here would inevitably join Schalke in the near future. It would be more complicated with players like Matip, Kolasinac, Geraerts, who are not from our town. Mega talents who are aware of our first team situation are more likely to find other destinations, although here comes Elgert into the play. The changes are just a little more gradual. A 12-year-old, for example, is unlikely to leave for Bochum just because he went down. Before he's eligible to play, a lot can happen. The most complicated part of the analysis would be to look at the location. The region is densely populated, but the competition is also greater. It is astounding how many professional footballers actually come from Gelsenkirchen. It might be worth investigating the question of whether this city bleeds football. So there's a lot of factors into this. But yeah, I think Norbert Elgert is a huge reason why people come for him, because he's been given glowing praises for a long time now. But again, as the commentator put, like, no, we're not having the talents that we had in the past, the Noirs and the Özils and so on and so forth, right? Not anymore. Scouting isn't as good as it was before. Now we still have some talents, yeah. What's his name? Drago is, most recent. And some others as well. Obviously, Weston McKennie's and Geraerts and stuff like that, but it's not as great as it once was, right? Like Draxler is probably the real last great Canapa Jimmy player, and Leroy Sané that we have had. Part of that is maybe the team too, right? The senior team has been poor, and so like, imagine if all those players came into a poor team, would they turn out to be the players that they are now if they played on a poor team? There were some good Schalke teams before, and all those really high-profile youth academy players came through. If we had a really good team now, would some of them really blossom? Like Drago, had he stayed and we had a good team, what would he have done, right? Or look at some other players that came through, Timo Becker, right, and some others. So it's hard to say. The naked eye tells you, this is from us being outside of Gelsenkirchen, that the talent level has gone down. There's still talent there, but it's not what it once was. It's not I wouldn't say it's the cream of the crop of Germany anymore. But still highly regarded. They got the best youth coach, who probably makes six figures himself, I would imagine, easily. Great character. If you don't know who Norbert Elgert is, go look at a picture of him. But yeah, I think he's one of the main reasons why the Canapa Schmiede is as known as it still is to this day, right? So usually these clubs around the world, the handful of them that have these great academies that are known for their academies, it's usually because their coach. More times than not. Amazing Vincent. Ciao. So, interesting point there in the Youth Academy. Thought I'd bring it up there to end the segment on a positive note for Schalke, because it's been an abysmal year. Game is against Elversberg this Sunday. I guess I'm done with the positivity predictions. I'm going to go Elversberg win 2-0, maybe 2-1. Maybe I'll be optimistic and say we lose 2-1 to Elversberg, and they get promoted to the Bundesliga with Cologne and Hamburg. But anything can happen. We will be back with our podcast on Monday night. We will do like a wrap-up show, end the season awards. If you got any awards that you want to give out, definitely let us know. Tweet us, message us on social media. So probably a lot of flops of the year for this year, but yeah. Asynchronous says, Elgert's talents functioned well in Germany, but never abroad, with some one or two exceptions. Positivity for global football, yeah. I got you, brother. So, yeah. That's my prediction for this weekend. We'll be back on Monday with the podcast, like I said, to close out the season. And there is one more big game one game that actually matters for us. That is on June 1st. It is the women. They will be playing Dortmund in the Westfalen Pokal final. Hopefully that game is streamed live on YouTube. Because if it is, we'll try to do a live stream for that. We'll watch along. Get a chance of redemption and beat Dortmund and bring home the trophy. Small consolation for the season. But we'll see. Stay tuned. We'll see if it's televised. If it's televised, we'll do everything we can to do a watch along. Made the last game on June 1st. That is still a few weeks away, so you got time to not this weekend, not the weekend after, the weekend after that. So 3 weekends from now. June 1st is the game, so we'll keep you posted on that. Anthony says 2-1 as well for Elfsberg this weekend. So yeah. All right, that is Schalke for now. Like I said, third hour, watch what is that video? What is that video called? It is a tragic ending for Schalke's history. We'll react to that in the third hour, but we're going to transition now into Serie A. Let's change the music up a little bit here, get a little rockier. Rockier? Is that? Get some more rock here going on. Sound level's right. Let's change the colors too here. Let's get some color in here, huh? Get some Serie A colors in here. Boom. Alright, well, green and blue. Green and blue, close enough. Close enough. It's the colors of the Celtics and Knicks for tonight. There you go. Alright. Oh, one more game. As Asynchronous says, one more game in this cruddy season to go. And one more important game being the Frauen playing, right? But let's get over here to Serie A and go over to the rundown for Serie A tonight, the Serie A portion of the stream. Alright, we're going to talk about the latest in Serie A. A new champion was crowned this week. We'll ask the question, what is the best derby in Serie A? You have some time? Not much time, but get some time to think about it. What is the best derby in Serie A? Amazing Vincent's in the house. Obviously some Milan fans are here as well. Right, Marcus, Anthony? I'm curious what you guys' thoughts on that. But stew on that for a minute. We'll talk about tactics over players. Is it better to have the right coach or the right players? We'll also talk about Udinese. A little bit of controversy with them involving a player. I think it's just one player. We will read the article and get more into that. Man City to Como. Kevin De Bruyne is coming to Como. No, he's not coming. But somebody else from Man City might be going to Como. We'll talk about Jeep, one of the famed sponsors in Serie A. If you know your Serie A history, you know who I'm talking about. We'll talk about that return of a sponsorship. And then, if you do know your Serie A, 40-year anniversary of something. We'll get into what that is. Like I said, if there's a third hour, we'll do Schalke's tragic ending, that documentary. It's like a 30-minute documentary. But we're doing Serie A for now. Asynchronous. Glück auf. Enjoy the game Sunday, sir. Alright, so the latest in Serie A, well, elephant in the room. Anthony, Marcus, you might want to cover your ears. But we have a new champion, a Coppa Italia champion. And that is Bologna. Bologna beat Milan 1-0 thanks to a goal by Daniel Ndoye in the 53rd minute. All she wrote. What a game. What a game. Well, I will say this. Both goalkeepers did a really, really good job. Skorupski and Magnon had some big saves in this game. I'll also say that the team that deserved it and wanted it the most won. And that was Bologna. Completely a masterful game by Vincenzo Italiano's men to completely stifle Milan. I mean, stifle them. Leao was under wraps. I mean, everybody was under wraps in this game. João Felix was just a normal sorry player. But a terrible performance by Milan. Pulisic was under wraps. But, yeah, couldn't do anything. Couldn't do anything in this game. Milan, that is. Big chances missed. 7-6. Skudusku did have to make some saves, but I mean, like, they're few and far between, really. Corners 3-3. Let's see. Lost balls 8-4. Bologna lost a lot of balls, but Magnon 4 saves. Skorupski's 3 saves. The statistics make it look a lot closer than it was, but it was just a great job defensively by Bologna. It really was. Anthony says Bologna deserved a victory. Milan didn't show enough grinta, and it's culmination of a season that is covered in failure. Yeah. Totally. And that goal that they gave up was Schalke worthy. Terrible defending on that goal, where ball just bouncing around, and you give Ndoye all the time in the world to just dance around in the box. Nobody like puts their foot through it. Like, where's your old school defenders like the Matarazzis or shit? Yeah, even like Anessas and whatever. Put a foot through his ass. No one touched him. Let him dance around there in the box, and he scores a goal past Mike Magnon. I thought Magnon could have done better on that, but it's point blank. So whatever. But yeah, they lost, and this is such a huge game for Milan. First of all, let's stick with Bologna for a second. First trophy in 50 years. Good for them. This is great for them. This is great for Serie A. They've been the most informed team in the league for the last 2 months, maybe longer. Lots of people, a lot of naysayers on them this season with the new manager and losing all their star players. I was one of them. But he and them have done a masterful job this year, and they're in a position to possibly be in a Champions League spot. They're guaranteed at least Europa League now. Milan, had they won, they would have gone from 9th place in the table, 8th place in the table, to a Europa League spot, which would have been great for them. But Bologna, this is a cherry on top of a wonderful season, considering where they came from and what everyone thought, because they lost Thiago Motta and Calafiori and Xerxes and other players. And they just kind of regrouped, get a new manager, and keep doing the same thing. They started slow in Champions League this year, but they kind of turned it around at the end and made themselves really formidable. Kudos to them, fully deserved. And great for Vincenzo Italiano, one of the names who's been touted as one of the next great Italian managers. Is he going to Napoli, Inter, Juve? They'll all be calling. Milan, they'll all be calling. So kudos to Bologna. And then Milan, again, this was a shitty season. But had they won this game, it would have been a little bit of salvation. I blame Ibrahimovic's haircut. He cut his hair, now it's shorter now. Like back to his Juve or Inter days. But yeah, Milan needed this win. They needed this win more than Bologna did. Bologna deserved it 100%. First win in 50 years. Kudos to them. I see all the good things for Bologna, but Milan, they lost. And the question here is from Amazing Vincent. Are you guys now Conceição out? Anthony says, regardless of who the coach is, we don't have a clear project picture at the top with Cardinale, as well as Forlani, Ibrahim Moncada. Despite how this season has gone, or went, despite how the Coppa Italia final went, I am not Conceição out. I want to see, Milan is bad already as it is. I like to see Conceição with a full summer, to see what he would do. Are they going to keep Leao, or are Leao and Theo going to stay? Magnon going to stay? Is Reinders going to be sold? I am worried about that. We saw when Tonali was one of the pillars of Milan, midfield and the team, get sold to Newcastle for money. Reinders is next on the list. Man City's already said that they want him. So there's precedent telling me that Cardinale will sell for money, or whoever, Forlani or Moncada, who's making a decision in this. I hope not. Reinders needs to stay. Reinders, and I think Anthony even said Pulisic, but those two got to stay for sure. There's a lot of core pieces there you could keep. I'd prefer to keep, Theo or Leao, but if, they come in with if Real Madrid's going to come with, 100 million euros for Theo Hernandez, it's going to be hard to say no to that. For me. Let alone Milan, right? So, we'll see. But I'm still Conceição in, despite how the season has gone. I expect you guys to be a bit better because quality players, yeah. And I don't get how Jovic gets to start a certain. I hate to sell Magnon. He's had not the season that he had since when he won the Scudetto. It's been kind of like up and down, but I'd rather sell Theo than Magnon. Magnon's like who are you gonna put in his place? I mean, I guess you could, right? Find somebody else. Inter did with Sommer, right? Obviously, with the Santi Jimenez situation with Abraham and Jovic, something that Conceição wants is not getting from Jimenez, and Jovic is providing it right now, and I have no problems with it at the moment. I want to see Jimenez, thrive at Milan. But it's hard coming from a team in the middle of the season. Anybody who comes over to a new team in the middle of the season, it's going to be hard for them, right? It's going to be an adjustment period. And clearly there's an adjustment period for Santi Jimenez. He's got some skill. We've seen it. We've seen the goals he scored this year already, but it's just tough for him. And Jovic, he's a quality player in there. He just hasn't shown it the last several years. But in his Frankfurt days, he was money. It's the reason why Real Madrid went after him. And some of the other teams have gone after him. But I have no problems with the decision for that. I think Conceição obviously saw something that he liked with Jovic and didn't like with Santi Jimenez, and so he brought him off the bench. And Jimenez has done fine off the bench. Obviously, he scored. Milan played Bologna early in the week in Serie A, and Jimenez had 2 goals in that game. So, I don't know. I trust the coach's decision. Obviously, if you're paying 35 million euros for a striker, you want to see him play, but it doesn't always happen, right? Doesn't always happen. If they sell Reinders a couple years after they sold Tonali, it tells me that Redbird doesn't have a winning project to get behind. I think they're all about making money. And I said this from the beginning. Redbird's goal is not to win Champions League. Yes, it'd be great. They want to be sustainable and be a Champions League team that makes money year in and year out. That's their main goal. Making money. Balancing the books. Now, the tricky thing for me is, I think had Milan made Champions League, I think it's a different story. I think absolutely they will sell off some players, bring in some younger players, and keep the consistency, keep the team in a Champions League place, and Arsenal-like, right? Make Champions League, get the money, and just keep being in the top 4. But now they're not even in Europe. What does Redbird do? Can they, if they really truly are about winning or even making money, they can't go around selling players. They need to have a good product on the pitch. And so, one way to do that is to buy players. They're going to have to spend a little bit of money. You got Como, who's one of the new starts. They're spending almost 100 million euros this year trying to get into the mix of the top 9. It used to be 7 sisters, now it's 9 sisters. Trying to get into that mix. They're just outside the 10th spot. So if Milan want to still be relevant with the 7 sisters and with Como trying to get in there, they need to spend a little bit of money. So we'll see what Redbirds are made of this summer. If he's truly wants to get back in the Champions League, he's going to spend money in the right places. I don't think it's going to be Man City or anything, but he's going to spend money in the right places to get the team, get Conceição, if that's his manager, or whoever the manager is, what they need to make sure that they are fighting for Champions League next year, if not Scudetto. That will be to determine. We'll get a good indication of what Redbird's intentions are, because right now, like Anthony says, it doesn't look like they have a project in mind. Get a damn sporting director. That's what you need to do. But it's a lot to be determined right now. A lot to be determined here. Give me a minute. I got so many screens up here. All right, so what is next? Looking at my list. All right, you had some time to think about it. Let's get into it. Best derby in Serie A. What is the best derby in Serie A? One commenter said, is it Derby d'Italia or Derby della Madonnina? So all the casual fans in my country, this person comes from Lithuania, says the Milano derby to be the biggest derby of Italy. Meanwhile, this person disagrees. He says he also heard Mourinho saying that the tension is way higher when Juve comes into town at San Siro rather than the Derby Milano. Fans of Inter in Serie A, which derby is the biggest for them? I'm curious for Interisti, what do they think is the bigger derby, Milan derby or the Derby d'Italia? Now there's Derby della Capitale, as Vincent just pointed out. There's Derby della Lanterna. There's so many derbies, a lot of big derbies in Serie A. Obviously, Roma, Lazio are definitely up there for sure. Trying to think what other ones. Obviously, I just talked about Sampdoria and Genoa. Who knows if we'll ever see that again with Sampdoria's spiral downward. Fiorentina, Juventus, Empoli, Fiorentina. What else is there? There's so many. The Palermo derby with Palermo and Catania, right? The South derby, Bari and Palermo. I think Bari and Cagliari even. What else? Try to think. There's a lot of rivalries. Perugia, Ternana. Did they get a shot? What else? Trying to remember. Yeah, it's a lot of them. I don't know. Vincent says, I'll put it this way. The Rome derby is more fierce and has more tension, but the Milan derby has the better players and the football is more fluid and better to watch. Not always. Those years where Gattuso was manager or Inzaghi, it was tough to watch. Even the Pioli days, they didn't get any wins. Anthony says it's between Derby d'Italia and Derby della Madonnina. It's interesting. I think there's no one answer, right? It's just whatever your preference is. I think if you're looking for, as Vincent says, you're looking for that fierce, there's gonna be fights in it, true like hatred for each other. It's probably a Roma Lazio, right? It's probably that derby. If you're looking for who are the best teams in Serie A, more times than not, it's probably the Derby d'Italia. This is how Juventus has historically been, one of the better teams. So it's having them involved always. If you're looking for a spectacle, the best, if not one of the best derby spectacles in world football is the Derby della Madonnina, right? With Inter tifosi and Milan tifosi with their banners and choreography before games. It's just, wow, beautiful, right? Derby della Lanterna is fantastic to watch from a neutral standpoint. But yeah, so it depends what your flavoring is. I think there's no one answer. It depends whatever you're looking for in that weekend. Now, if you have all the derbies going on at the same time, what's going to win out? What's going to be the top billing? I don't know. It depends on where they are on the table, I guess, right? I think Derby d'Italia and Derby della Madonnina are probably at the biggest billing, but I think Roma Lazio is so fun to watch because of the hatred. And the Genoa derby is also so passionate as well. It's hard. Now I will say this, when you do have the two Milanese clubs at top form, that is a joy to watch. And like 2003 with both those teams were just stacked. That was fun to watch. Milan Juve was fun to watch. Juve Inter fun to watch. Right? Anytime those big three are stacked and both all playing well, those are fun games to watch. Those crowds are amazing in the San Siro. But again, these days, Derby d'Italia this year was fantastic, right? It was a 4-4 game, unbelievable game, one of the best games we've seen in a long time. But it really was no defense, right? It was all offense in that game. I think more times than not, in recent memory, it's probably been Derby della Capitale has been the best ones to watch because you never know who's going to win. It's either or, right? It seems like they just traded blows. In more recent memories, the Derby Milano, it was mostly one-way traffic. Inter winning. Lately now, under Conte Sao, all of a sudden, believe it or not, Milan are actually on the front pedal against Inzaghi's men, which is crazy to say. And then you never know with Derby d'Italia. So yeah, it's depending on your flavor of the week. I think they're all good. Obviously, I'm going to be biased toward the Milan derby, but every derby has their day and a reason. So it depends what your flavor is. You know, I'm not going to hate you if you say Roma derby, Fiorentina Juve, you know, the Palermo derby, whatever your flavor is. I think those are just fun games to watch. You never know what's going to happen, and it's the best is when it's unpredictable, when it's not a one-way traffic, when both teams have an equal chance or a good chance of winning, right? The Turin derby for years, they used to be good back in the day, but like Torino hasn't been the same team lately, so it's been like a beatdown, right? And so I think if you had like the old school days when Grande Torino was around, yeah, I'm sure those derbies with Juventus were just probably the best at the time. But it's not the same now. So you need both teams, whatever the derby is, to be playing well. And typically in a derby, however you want to say it, form doesn't matter. That's when it's a really good derby. When you have, could be a team who's absolutely on a killer, beating teams left and right. Another team just bottom of the table, getting relegated, but they play and you never know who's going to win. That's a good derby, and we've seen that more times than not with Lazio Roma than anything else. So that's my long way of saying I'm not going to tell you my answer. Dominic says Totti in the Derby della Capitale were fun. Yes, he was, absolutely. Napoli playing any southern team now is revved up. Yeah, Roma Napoli's always a fun derby to play too, right? When's the last time Torino beat Juve? Last time Torino beat Juve was. Oh man, it wasn't that long ago. I think I could be wrong. I want to say it was in the last 10 years. I'm curious. That's a good question. I don't know. George is in the house. Good to see you, my friend. You know, Cagliari has some good derbies as well. Beer went down the wrong throat there. Or wrong pipe, wrong throat. Yeah. Torino hasn't really been in a derby. They've been in a beatdown lately, but I'm curious when the last time they won now. I want to say it's the last 10 years. Because I feel like we covered it on City Sit Down, but I don't remember. So it's a good question worth asking for. Let me know in the comments where you think. Comments here, social media, anywhere, wherever we post a video. Share your thoughts there. What you think is the best derby in Serie A right now and why? Because it's not an easy answer, I think. Not an easy answer at all. All right, so now this part of the show, we're going to talk about tactics or player. You have situations, every team, really. Either they're looking for the right coach or the right players to get them over the edge to get the final piece, right? You could say the Inter situation, for example, is they were a good team, right? They had Conte and they won the Scudetto. A lot of good players, and they brought in Inzaghi, and they won Scudetto again, right? Inzaghi's a fantastic coach, but that's like an outlier. When have you seen a coach come in and really change things around? A good example would be for the Milanisti in the chat, 2012 or whatever it was, 2011, when Allegri came in. Milan were terrible. He comes in and they win the Scudetto and they start being a good team again. Then he leaves to go to Juventus and they go into their Bento era, right? And the players, they still had some really good players at the end of their career. But, for the most part, can a coach mask some of the deficiencies of a team? Or can a team mask the deficiencies of a coach? We've seen a situation where there's been a really good team that just, managers, right? And I think any of the big clubs in Italy, you can see that, or even in Europe, where like really good teams on paper, they just had managers that were like, and the team still did fairly well. I mean, Gagliardini, when he was at Inter, he was, it was okay, right? So there's plenty of examples of that. So this comment here comes from Reddit. Vincenzo Italiano says Italiano's success demonstrates once again how in today's football, tactical organization counts for much more than individual qualities. What do you think? Someone in the commenters says, my opinion, but in today's football, organization matters much more than individual players. The great champions who we had for 10 or 20 years ago no longer exist. If you look at Serie A from 15 or 20 years ago, it featured players like Totti, Del Piero, Ibrahimovic, Seedorf, Pirlo, and I could go on. Today, the individual differences between players have significantly decreased. I believe there are countless examples of how organization can completely transform players. So what does everybody think? Vincent says, I think it's 60% the coach, 40% the players. Dom says, Inter kept Conte 3-5-2 for Limone and Zaghi to steer, and it worked well. Pioli just followed Giampaolo's dumpster fire. Yes, that is absolutely true. What else? Someone said, Napoli are legit going to win the title despite being less talented this year than the team that finished 10th last year. They literally got rid of two of their best players. A good coach can paper over the cracks in the squad with deficiencies, but individual skills of players can also save a squad. Italiano has proven himself, and I am interested to see what he can do with resources of a larger club. His age and style of play seems more transferable than Gasperini. I would love to see him at Milan, and would dread what he should do if he moved to a rival. Yeah, that's a good point there. That's a good question. I think Vincent's right? 60% coach, 40% players. These days, it does seem like the coach plays a lot more of a factor than the players do compared to the past. There was a lot more the talent pool in Serie A back in just 15, 20 years ago, even beyond that. It was so great in Serie A. Serie A used to have 25 plus years ago. We're talking about 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It was the best league because all the talent came to Serie A. We don't have that anymore. Yeah, there's some good players in here, but the talent level now compared to what it was even 15, 20 years ago is vastly different. And what we're seeing now is tactically you have to change. Now, back in the day, Catenaccio was the main, the piece de resistance, right? It was you play good defense, you're going to win the titles. Now we're more into modern football. Gasperini and Vincenzo Italiano's the role. We play attacking football. Inzaghi, Conte. Attacking football is the name of the game. But tactics are still very much a part of Serie A as a ethos. And so you have to be good defensively against your opponent, but also be able to attack. Sadi, someone mentioned in chat. Coach and system over individuals. If Milan were to keep a 3-4-3, I'd love to see Sadi improve it. That's a shout. Anthony says 55% coach, 45% players. Yeah, I would say now, if I'm leaning towards that, I would probably say, man, I would say 75-25 right now in favor of the coach. We've seen, obviously what Palladino and Italiano are doing right now. They've proven it both at smaller clubs, and Italiano, what he did at Fiorentina, got them made them credible again in Europe. Got to the point where they are now against Bologna. Obviously winning Coppa Italia and playing really well. Palladino took Monza to 10th place, and where's Monza now? They're going to go to Serie B. So what Palladino did at Monza was tremendous, and then coming off the steps of what Italiano did, losing a bunch of players, he's kind of made Fiorentina really fun. Moise Kean has had a resurgence of his career. This is like his best year in his history, and so it's the tactics is a lot, and so a lot of good managers are doing a lot with doing good with the good players, but also doing good with shit. And it's not like Italiano has good players, all bad players. He's got some really good players on his team. Yeah, they're not going to have the names of Calafiori or Xerxes or some others, but he's done a good job, and he is very good in tournaments like Inzaghi. Inzaghi made his name in tournaments and cup games. Italiano's got that stick now too, right? He's been really good in European football. Obviously, Coppa Italia just won that. So, yeah, George, the Coppa final was something. Coaching again. That's coaching in the final there. Not to say Conceição's a bad coach, but I think Italiano's experience in Serie A, and so he got it done. He got the job done when it mattered. So I think coaching plays a big role. You look at Napoli. How many good coaches have they had in their career? All of a sudden, Spalletti comes in, and boom, they win the title, right? And then they get rid of him. Well, he leaves. Bring in Rudy Garcia. They bring in Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and they finish 10th the very next year with the exact same team, minus Min Jae Kim. And then you bring in another good coach like Conte, and you might win another Scudetto. Coaching matters. Obviously, having good players helps a lot. Inzaghi gets his first title with Inter. Inter's a fantastic team, but I think Inzaghi had a lot to do with it as well, right? So that's an interesting question. I think most of the time it's probably 60-40, 55-45 like that. But I think if you're looking at the league as a whole, 10,000-foot view, overall, I would say it's probably like, I would say like 75-25, just because I think there's some really bad teams and not unskilled teams, and their coaches are doing some fantastic job, right? Ranieri it seemed like a dumpster fire at Roma, and they went on a roll. How many games did they go undefeated? Vincent will tell us. How many games did they go unbeaten in the second half of the season? Or through the season, I guess? 18, 19 games? Coaching matters. Leicester won a freaking title. Leicester City with Ranieri won a title because of coaching. Players who were scrubs, they were one of the bottom feeders of the league. All of a sudden, under Ranieri, they freaking won a title. Coaching matters. 19 games. Thank you, Vincent. 19 games. So, I think coaching does matter. Atalanta, yeah, that's right. I was going to bring it up, but yeah, but yeah, I think coaching absolutely plays a part. I think right now we are blessed to have really good coaches. I think for a while, the Zapparinis of the world, just picking up random coaches, recycling coaches, and I think what we're seeing now is teams willing to give young minds an opportunity in this league, and they're getting a chance. Igor Tudor has got a guy who's been a mid-table manager at best, finally gets a chance at Juventus, and he's making most of it, right? And so you're seeing that a lot. So obviously you have the De Zerbis of the world, and there's a lot of examples you can make where the coaches have done a lot with the teams that they had. Obviously Gasperini, what he's done at Atalanta is without a doubt Atalanta doing Atalanta things. So yeah. Ivano in the house says, who do you think deserves the last Champions League spot the most? Whew, that is tough. I kind of glazed over Serie A because I was talking about Coppa Italia more. But let's look at the table in Serie A and ask that question, because coaching does matter. All right? Coaching does matter. And you're looking at the last Champions League spot. You got Juventus at 64 points, Lazio at 64 points, Roma at 63, Bologna 62, and Milan with an outside chance with 2 games to go at 60 points. I guess Fiorentina too, right? That's a tough one. Because you got to look at it a couple ways, right? If you look at it at form, it's got to be Bologna, right? Or even like Roma. Even though I lost 1 game in 20, they've been really fine form, right? These 2 teams, Bologna just won the Coppa Italia. But you also got to look at, I try to look at it as who would represent Serie A the best. And it's not always a team that's always in form, right? What was that year that Udinese made it to Champions League, but then they got battered in the Champions League the next year? That you don't want to see that. So which team is most capable of competing in Europe? Bologna can't win it this year, and they stunk up the bed. Obviously, they finished strongly, but they stunk up. They couldn't compete, right? And it was going to be difficult for them because they've never been there before. I think Roma depends on who the manager is, obviously, for next year for most of these teams, because we don't know if Ranieri is going to be there next year, who's going to be. But Roma has the skill set, especially if Dybala stays. Lazio's got a really good team. Juventus got a really good team. We don't know who the coach is going to be for Juve or Roma next year. We don't know if Italiano is going to stay next year. The only certainty we know is probably Baroni's going to stay at Lazio, so maybe they get it. But they didn't do well in Europe this year. Lazio didn't. So if you want to see who does well in Europe, maybe it's Fiorentina, but they're not going to get it. I don't think they'll do Champions League anyway. I think it's got to be, if you look at that level, it's probably Juventus and then Roma in terms of who could do Serie A the best. Atalanta are going to do Atalanta things in Europe. Inter, Napoli as well, especially to keep their managers. But yeah, who would best represent Serie A? It's Juve or Roma, depending on the manager. But if you're looking at form, it's Bologna or Roma. I would, if my bet, if I were a betting man, because I don't like Tudor in Europe. I'm going to say Juventus just slightly over Roma for Champions League. I think Roma will just get over Lazio, I think. I put so much stock in Lazio this year, and they've just embarrassed me all season long. So I'm going to go against the grain now and go Roma. Sorry, Vincent, because it's probably going to be the reverse effect. Vincent says, unfortunately, I think Juve will get fourth. Yeah. So I think Bologna deserve it. If Bologna gets it, that'd be amazing. But I don't think they do Serie A. I think for Serie A to look the best, it has to be Juve. Or Roma, depending on who the manager is, right? But Juve or Roma. Nothing against Lazio or Bologna or Milan. Obviously, having Milan and doing well would obviously benefit me. But I think it would be benefit the league as well. But they got to fix their own shit first, right? So, excluding them, it's probably Juve. I like to see Bologna doing Europa. Yeah, that I do. I think Champions League was a little too much for them. Bologna to get Europa, absolutely. They got it now with Coppa Italia, right? Let's see how they do it. You know? I'm curious, yeah. So there you go, Juventus. Ivano, since you brought it up, who do you think gets the last Champions League spot? Curious on your thoughts. All right, where were we? Talked about tactics. Talked about the best derby in Serie A. Let's talk now about Udinese. Oh my, what do they do now? I don't know if you guys heard this, but a little bit of controversy with Udinese. This comes from Gazzetta dello Sport. All right. Udine, professional footballer, reported for rape. Here are the facts. The investigation has begun. The accused is said to be of French nationality. After an evening in company, he allegedly abused a woman who then filed a complaint. A professional footballer is accused of sexual assault. The events allegedly occurred in Udine on the night between Sunday and Monday when, late at night, leaving a club after an evening spent in company, the footballer and two friends allegedly accompanied a woman to an apartment. While drunk, from here, the alleged advances, which resulted in rape, reported by the woman who went alone to the Misericordia Hospital in Udine, telling the medical staff and the police what had happened. The girl denied consent to any sexual intercourse and, Monday the 12th, decided to file a complaint. It seems that the footballer reported as French, but nothing more is leaked out so far. The Carabinieri are obviously working in the utmost secrecy. That's all we know. It is a French player for Udinese. Right? Now, I will say, first thing that comes to mind, that's right, Ivano says, hoping Roma, since he's a Romanisti, but Juve will do Juve things, if you know what I mean. Hope they don't get helped in these coming games. Yeah, I know what you mean. That's Udinese. The first thing that came to mind with Udinese is a story we talked about a couple weeks ago. A French player, former Marseille player, Dimitri Payet, doing the crazy ass shit, which I'm not going to get into tonight. Because it's funny as shit. Go watch that video, or go watch that video, and you'll find out what the Dimitri Payet did. It's like 3 minutes long on our YouTube. But he played in Marseille. And who else is at Marseille? Thauvin. Now, I'm not saying it's Thauvin. I'm just saying that's the first thing that jumped in my mind. Dom says, it's terrible that would happen, but shouldn't reflect on the club unless it's not an asset. Yeah, that I agree. One, it shouldn't be, Udinese shouldn't be implicated for this. Unless it's a systemic thing, then that's a bigger issue, right? I think it's totally the player, and they got to figure this out. But the question is, who are the choices? I had the list somewhere. I gotta find my Reddit now. That's where I saw a list of names of the French players that are currently playing for Udinese. Oh, what am I doing here? Let's see if I can find it real quick. Udinese. Where? So many. Here we go. All right. So some names. You got Soleil, Thauvin, Toure. What other French players of French descent? Ada, Guisson. That is all we know of French descent. So it could be anybody. But if these accusations are true, it's not looking good for that player. I'll tell you that. Udinese do have 3 French players in their squad. And they also have some French descent players as well. Some French in their blood. So we'll see. This is a serious accusation, obviously. Obviously, the Carabinieri are looking into it. I'm sure it will leak sooner than later. Only thing we know is this Udinese player. So we'll see, but it's not looking good for that person, whomever it is. So, all right, let's get into much better news. Let's talk about Como and possibly a Man City player going to Como. Dom says it's time for Udinese. The Udinese clue. I say it's Thauvin in the study with a candlestick. Oh. Udinese should be punished the player if he has been found guilty of committing the rape by releasing them for the club. Yeah. I would imagine the club would know who it is and wouldn't let them play. So I'm curious to watch the next game to see who gets omitted from the squad. Right? You would imagine at least while it's under investigation, the player would not play. They're not in threat of relegation either, so like why would you play the player if he's someone who could benefit the club? Maybe the player doesn't even play. I don't know. So, talk about Man City player coming to Como. It's not Kevin De Bruyne. Sorry. Probably going to Napoli if Conte stays. But it's not Kevin De Bruyne. So, who is it? Well, this comes from the Daily Mail. Man City midfielder to complete €25 million move to Cesc Fabregas Como with Pep Guardiola's side due a huge profit by €9 million signing despite playing just twice. Maximo Perrone joined Manchester City 2 years ago for around €9 million. The Argentine midfielder admitted in February he wanted to stay on at Como. Oh, he's already there. Maximo Perrone is completing a $25 million move to Como. Perrone joined City from Vélez Sarsfield, Argentina 2 years ago for around €9 million, spending last season on loan at Las Palmas. The 22-year-old has enjoyed a run at Serie A this term under Cesc Fabregas, with Como set to finish the campaign in mid-table. The club's official website recently labeled Perrone's compass the Swiss watch who keeps Como ticking, and they had already triggered a one-year extension to his loan deal, but talks surrounding a permanent switch continued between the two parties, and they have struck a deal that will see City almost triple their profit on the central midfielder. As far as I'm concerned, I want to stay here, grow, and learn more with Como, Perrone said in February. So, there you have it. Maximo Perrone. Interesting. Como are trying to make waves this year. Next year. They made waves this year. From coming up from Serie B and finishing 10th place. Fantastic. We saw that most recently with, Monza? So, but now they're willing to invest. We didn't see that with Monza. Monza didn't invest. They had probably other circumstances outside of their control that didn't allow them to invest. Multiple reasons. But Como, they got a lot of benefactors, a lot of celebrities statuses that they gotta. Celebrities linked with the club. Isn't Drake one of them, right? Too. So they want to become a name. They're in obviously a great destination in Como that people are going to want to go and watch the games. Great stadium on the lake. So they want to compete against the big boys in Serie A, and so they're willing to spend money this year. And so I totally buy that they're going to spend 25 million euros on Perone to keep him if he's doing so well for them. Yeah, why not? And you expect them to spend a lot more money on other players to enhance what they already have going on. Drake owns Venezia. Thank you. Does Como have any financial fair play concerns? I don't think yet. I think after this summer, when they spend money, they will have a warning. Because I think they spent smartly. They got a bunch of free players, and they spent very small. But I think this is the first year they're really going to spend money. They haven't done it yet. But I think after this offseason, where you're looking at 100 million euros they're going to spend, if not maybe a little bit more, they will have the eyes of the financial fair play, the UEFA committee and FIFA committees, and so they will be in the eyes, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them get a warning. As long as the books are balanced, ultimately is the name of the game, right? Not only, but yeah, I think you will start seeing the financial fair play get involved after this summer. I think right now they're good. I really do. So we'll see what they do, how they spend money. Because I mean, just because you have money doesn't mean shit, right? Milan bought 13 players several years ago. What did that get them? Nothing, right? So, but everything you've seen from Como thus far has told you that they're gonna spend wisely. They got some really good players on the cheap, for free. They're going to continue to build and get the right pieces in, and probably a combination of youth with a lot of high ceiling and then some veterans that can really solidify things. So I'm curious to see what Como's going to do here. I really am. Can they threaten the top 9? I don't know, because I think the top 9 are just so damn good. I don't know who in the top 9 they're going to be able to crack. Who can they, as bad as Milan has been this season, are they better than Milan? Can they be better? Can they beat Milan? I don't know. Fiorentina? No. Bologna? Roma? Lazio? Juve? Atalanta? Inter? Napoli? Maybe on their best day they can beat one of them, but in terms of consistency for the season, I don't know yet. 100 million? Maybe Redbird will build their stadium off Lake Como. Maybe. The investors at Como are more willing to spend money than Redbird. Redbird are about sustainability and balancing the books. Como's like, bring the stars, baby. Show me the money. Show me the money. Get me into Europe. Bring me the stars. Bring me the Clooney's of the world. So we'll see. We shall see. But yeah. All right, where are we at now? Como, let's talk sponsorship deals. Let's talk about Jeep. Before I switch over, this is a pretty easy one, but I'll give you guys a chance to prove me wrong. But you guys know which team has had the Jeep sponsor, is known for having the Jeep sponsorship on their kit? Anybody? You gotta know this. It's easy. It's an easy one. We're talking sponsorships. This is probably like the most well-known sponsorship deal outside of Pirelli. I'll wait. I'll give it a minute here. Yeah. Exactly. It's Juventus. Jeep returns as Juventus shirt sponsor for $77 million deal through mid-2028. There goes that jersey of Jeep. Juventus said on Tuesday, U.S. car maker Jeep will pay 69 million euros, which is $77 million U.S., to become the Italian soccer club's front of jersey sponsor until June 2028. Of the total amount, Juventus will get 4 million euros in their pockets, for the remainder of the current season, 19 million euros for next season. So they get 4 million for this year? And 23 million euros each for the next following seasons, the club sent a statement. How'd they get that deal? The deal resumes a partnership after Serie A failed to find a main sponsorship deal when its previous contract with Jeep ended last June. Part of Stellantis, the world's fourth largest automaker, Jeep had been the main sponsor of Juventus, the 36th-time Italian champion since 2012. The club currently featured Save the Children Foundation on front of this shirt before the deal. Reuters reported last month that Jeep was set to get its brand back on the black and white shirts of Juventus. The Italian club has also entered into agreement with Detroit's tourism bureau, Visit Detroit, to fill the second slot reserved for sponsorship. Okay. The club did not provide financial details on the Visit Detroit deal, but said it entails a fixed total fee significantly lower than that of the Jeep sponsorship agreement. Juventus, who dominated Italian soccer for nearly a decade until 2020, have been struggling to regain their shine on the pitch after an accounting scandal, whose consequences included a ban from European competitions in the 23-24 season. All right. Jeep is Stellantis Fiat Agnelli family. It is, Dom. It is. Absolutely. Now here's something. I don't know if you guys knew this. Talk about sponsorship deals. I was reading this today. Barcelona have an interesting sponsorship deal. Front of the shirt sponsorship with Spotify, and the deal is such where they can get bands on the shirt of of Barcelona, like the Rolling Stones or Travis Scott, whomever, and then get that. Spotify is able to get that artist to the stadium to promote it even further, and then sell more merchandise. It is crazy, the sponsorship deal that Spotify and Barcelona have together. It's interesting. I never thought the way they're doing it. It's better than the bet ones, right? All those betting companies, I hate those. BetWin and all those other ones. Obviously, Fly Emirates is the one that's used a lot now. But Spotify, putting different artists, using their pull to get different artists, and then have the artists come to the games and then sell more merchandise away. It's a money-making machine, I think. You're going to see more of deals like the Spotify one coming to fruition with other, the music industry. I can see Cardinale and them doing a similar deal. Cardinale and Redbird have supposedly an in with these kind of markets, right? With their conglomerates that they have. But I think this is what you're going to see going forward is companies like Spotify doing what they're doing with Barcelona. It's the way of the future, I'm telling you. But Jeep, yeah, damn, that's a sweet deal for Barca. All the music version, yeah. I mean, recently, I think they did Travis Scott recently, and he sold a bunch of merch. He created a whole line of Barcelona Travis Scott merchandise, and then sold it at the Camp Nou there at the game. And he's a Madridista, or at least he's like a Drake. He poses the pictures. He claims his love for Vinny Jr., but then does the Barcelona deal. So anyway, brilliant sponsorship deal. But anyway, back to Jeep. Yes, Jeep is part of the Agnelli family, so maybe Agnelli's coming back, or just giving Agnelli some love, give some money. I don't know. But I appreciate when sponsors that were known for a company come back. I don't want to I see a secret in the chat. I don't necessarily want Gazprom back, right? I don't want Gazprom back, but some teams are like synonymous with certain sponsors. Inter with Pirelli, right? I want to see some of those back. And if they're new ones, something creative. None of these betting sites. I'm tired of these betting sites or these someone had an interesting one. They had Pornhub, and it wasn't like a big team, but it was like Pornhub as a sponsor. It's worth a laugh. But you got to see some creativity, and I think that Spotify thing is the way of the future for sure. But having Jeep back for Juventus, good for them, good for the Agnellis, We have our legend Abby drive around in a yellow and black tracksuit and sponsored blue Kia statement. Yeah, statement eating. I know. I saw that. Asynchronous. I saw that and it disgusted me. The things we do for money. But Anthony says there's also been rumors of Andrea Agnelli returning to Juventus. Yeah, I have heard those, and it would link up with the Jeep thing, right? Just saying. All right. Is that it for Serie A? No, I have one more thing. We're going to watch a quick 6-minute video, 6.5-minute video, and then get into the topic. All right. No way. The best Milan can hope is Jerry calls P. Diddy skunk god. We got our first P. Diddy announcement here on the stream tonight. We're going to watch a quick 6.5-minute video and get into the topic. If you've been following along tonight, you'll have an idea where this is going, but let's get into the video.
Throughout its history, Serie A has typically been dominated by the likes of Internazionale, AC Milan and Juventus. There are a number of teams who have also had Scudetto glory, but amongst the most unlikely of them is Hellas Verona. In 1985, a Hellas Verona team who had never won a major honour before, managed by Osvaldo Bagnoli, stunned Italian football by winning the Scudetto for the first, and to date, only time. It remains one of the most unlikely victories in football history. This is a story of when Hellas Verona won the Scudetto.
Shout out to AFC Finners for the video.
Hellas Verona were founded in 1903 and slowly gained interest from the locals. It would take them nearly 30 years after the Italian football system we know today was founded to reach the top flight, although they were only there for a solitary season. It was only under stewardship of the legendary Niels Liedholm that they managed to establish themselves in the top flight. He took them back to Serie A in 1968, and in 1973 they would defeat AC Milan to deny the Rossoneri the title. They reached their first Coppa Italia final in 1976, but would lose 4-0 to Napoli. In 1981, they appointed Osvaldo Bagnoli as manager, a man who would change the club forever. He guided them to a 4th place finish in 1983, with them leading the table for several weeks. The next season, they reached another Coppa Italia final.
Here again, the right coach makes the players look better. Just saying.
As well as playing in the UEFA Cup for the first time. For the 84-85 season, Bagnoli worked on improving his team. German Hans-Peter Briegel was brought in, a playmaker who could fit into both defence and midfield, renowned for his tough nature by refusing to wear shin pads. Danish forward Preben Elkjær was recruited too, who would go on to finish 3rd and 2nd in a Ballon d'Or over the next 2 years. He was a maverick, known for being a chain smoker, and was a free spirit who could amaze crowds, gaining attraction for his performances in Euro 84. He would help the spine of the team, as well as creative midfielder Antonio Di Gennaro in the middle. Hellas did not have the budget of other sides, but Bagnoli had been able to form a team on a shoestring with a focus on hard work and deployed a counter-attacking style influenced by Catenaccio. As the side went into a new campaign with high hopes, nobody could have imagined the heights they were about to reach. Lazio and AC Milan had been relegated to Serie B as punishment for a match-fixing scandal, and so the title would be a lot more open. Hellas Verona's first game would be a huge challenge. Their first match of the season was at home to Napoli, but the eyes of the world were on the away side. The Neapolitans had recently forked out a world record fee for a little Argentine forward who they hoped would change their fortunes forever. The name of this man was Diego Maradona. It was his debut for Napoli. Fortunately, Hellas Verona rose to the challenge. A goal from Briegel on his debut, as well as strikes from Giuseppe Galdarisi and Antonio Di Gennaro, sealed a 3-1 win. Hellas Verona started as they meant to go on.
There's a
More
trivia
wins
question.
followed, including a statement 2-0 victory over Juventus, with an iconic moment. In the 81st minute, Preben Elkjær went on a mazy run and lost his right boot in the process. Nonetheless, with his bootless right foot, he tucked the ball into the bottom corner to seal victory for his side. Their form was stupendous, and they would not experience defeat until January. Out of nowhere, it seemed that maybe a miracle was brewing. Many wondered though if their luck had run out after their first defeat in a 2-1 loss to Avellino, but they rallied by holding Napoli
Look at that
to
shirt
a draw
sponsorship,
and
Canon.
defeating Ascoli 2-0 and Udinese 5-3. A tough game against Inter saw Hellas enter it with 6 players missing due to illness, but their tough resolve saw them ground out a 1-1 draw. They then held Juventus to a draw and defeated Roma to continue making statements of intent. This was the first of 3 wins in a row, and they would only lose once more in the league all season to Torino. In the penultimate game of the campaign, they travelled to Bergamo to face Atalanta.
Look at that
with the
crowd.
opportunity to win the league. They did not disappoint. A leveller from Elkjar in the 51st minute sealed the draw, and as a result, the title. The impossible dream had been realised. Hellas Verona had not only won their first ever top flight title, but their first ever major trophy. Nobody could have predicted it, but Osvaldo Baioli managed to mastermind the victory by working on a budget, motivating players to go beyond their expectations, and won the league using a grand total of 17 players.
Wow.
Hellas Verona returned home to 120,000 fans in blue and yellow, welcoming their new champions. They finished off the campaign in style with a 4-2 win over Avellino, with their star man Elkjar fittingly scoring the final goal of their season in the 90th minute. The miracle of Verona was complete, and one of football's greatest underdog stories. Capitalize on their victory. Much of the squad would be sold over the next 2 years, and whilst Bagnoli remained loyal, he would depart the club after they were relegated in 1990. Since 1985, Hellas Verona have gone between Serie A and Serie B, and have still not won another major honour. But their victory will never be forgotten. A city with a population of around 250,000 smashed the odds and found their way to the top of Italian football. It is no doubt up there with the miraculous title victories of Leicester, Nottingham Forest and Wolfsburg. Osvaldo Bagnoli was a miracle worker, building a team from dust, and has been named honorary president of Hellas Verona in honour of what he did for them. It is improbable that Hellas Verona will reach such heights ever again, but the miracle of 1985 can never be taken away from them.
So, 40-year anniversary of this Hellas Verona victory. Yeah, what a team. We talked about earlier about coaching matters, and the coaching really did matter in this. Saw Lazio and Milan were relegated to City B from the previous season's scandals. Oh, the scandals in City A. What the hell, man? And again, Milan, right? So it's one of the best underdog stories. Is it one of the best underdog stories of history? They mentioned some of the greats, right? You know, talked about obviously Leicester City, Nottingham Forest, Wolfsburg. It's interesting how this team won. And it's funny because, yes, every big club probably drastically underperformed, right? It was Diego Maradona's first game that they played against him. Yeah, 6 years later, Sampdoria won the Scudetto too. Yeah, that team was stacked. Wow. But it's interesting. I heard a comment saying this 84-85 season that Verona won is the only season when referees were assigned by random draw instead of picked by the usual committee. This was done after the Calciocomesse scandal, which, you know, saw Lazio and Milan get relegated, to make things look cleaner. Funny how the one-time refs weren't hand-picked. Verona won the title and Juventus didn't. Interesting. That's interesting. I wonder why they should do that more often. I don't know what they do now. I don't know what they do now, but back then, the one time they do that, a random team wins. It's interesting. And I think coaching played a lot to do it. Obviously, the coach got the players to play above their standards. They perform well game in and game out consistently, and a little bit of catenaccio for sure, but they got the job done. Yeah, Sampdoria definitely underdog story. But it's 40-year anniversary of this team winning their title. You know, it's up there. One of the great underdog stories. What is your? If you had to pick one underdog story above everything else, what would it be for you? Madrid loses too, yeah. Yeah, the Bentegodi is still a place that gets packed, but that picture was, wow. They really packed that place in. But yeah, if you have to pick one underdog story in history, the greatest one, what would it be? Sampdoria? Would it be Hellas Verona? Wolfsburg? Nottingham Forest? Leicester? Hey, somebody else. Inter? No. Yeah, curious. Let me know what your thoughts are. If I had to pick, that Verona story is pretty damn good. I mean, if I'm thinking about teams that were a joy to watch, Sampdoria, right? That Sampdoria team that you guys are referencing in the chat. Leicester was fun to watch. I really enjoyed that year. The Leicester won. Seeing Ranieri do what he did. I think the Wolfsburg one was such a it was unexpected. That's when I think Felix Magath was the coach, I believe. Asinker can correct me if I'm wrong. Nottingham Forest, you know what they did. Nottingham had some great teams, great European teams. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Obviously, everyone now knows about Leicester City, but I think, you know, if we're looking at just purely on the skill set they had and overachieving, oh man, that's so tough. I would give a slight edge to the Hellas Verona team, maybe. Yeah, that's a good question. Good question. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. What is the greatest underdog story in world football for winning the title? I gave you a bunch of options there, so. All right, that is it for Serie A. How many games? 2 games left? 1 game left? 2 games left. Week 36, week 37 this weekend. So, title's up for balance. Napoli have 1 point lead over Inter. We'll see what happens with that. Napoli have the easier schedule, but can they face this pressure? We know Conte can, but can his team? The Napoli won the title 2 years ago, so a lot of the players are still there, but Inter snip at their heels. Napoli almost choked it away this past weekend. Got a draw out of their game. We'll see. We'll see. Coming down to the last game. Fun stuff. And who will get the last Champions League spot? Who will get the last European spots? In general, who will get relegated? Monza will. Empoli will. Well, maybe Empoli. Empoli, Lecce now. Lecce's in Venezia somehow got a result. So it's Venezia, Lecce, and Empoli fighting for the last 2 spots. Parma hanging on for the life. And Verona, too. We're just talking about Verona, so. All right, that does it for Serie A. I think I got another hour in me left, or at least a half hour. We're gonna watch a little documentary here. Set the mood again. All right, make sure the right color's in there. All right, so last hour here, we are gonna watch a little documentary on Schalke's tragic ending. Change some music up here. There we go. All right, so let's get into this one here. So this one, I want to give a shout out to the video maker. This comes from Unglaublicher Fußball. And they created this video here a while ago, 6 months ago or so, but it's been getting a lot of traction lately. I saw a lot of people commenting on this video. Der Keller was one of them. But several people on Twitch and YouTube are commenting on this video, so I want to see what all the hype is all about. So I'm going to watch this video here. And let's get going. All right. Let me know how the sound goes, and put I think it's in German, so let's put some subtitles in here for those who don't speak German. And then get on with the thing.
Bundesliga war der letzte Schlag in der traurigen Geschichte von Schalke. Einst eine der besten Mannschaften Deutschlands mit herausragenden Spielern wie Raoul, Noir, Özil und Sané wurde der Club Opfer einer inkompetenten Führung, die die vergangenen Erfolge unter sich begrub. In nur 3 Jahren ging der Verein vom Champions-League-Teilnehmer zum Absteiger in die Bundesliga über. Die Pandemie und der Verlust des Hauptsponsors Gazprom führten dazu, dass sich der Verein momentan in einem finanziellen Abgrund befindet und selbst in der 2. Bundesliga nur mit Mühe um das Überleben kämpft. In diesem Video beleuchten wir die Geschichte des Aufstiegs und Falls von Schalke. Ich muss zunächst etwas Kontext hinzufügen, wer Schalke ist, denn es ist nicht einfach irgendein Fußballverein. Für diejenigen, die sich erst kürzlich für Fußball zu interessieren begonnen haben, erkläre ich, dass die Situation damit vergleichbar ist, als wären Juventus oder Chelsea am Rande des Verschwindens. Jeder Fan des deutschen Fußballs weiß, wer zu den 5 größten Vereinen unseres Landes Landes gehört und Schalke wird zweifellos immer auf dieser Liste stehen. Schalke ist bekannt für seine wohl treueste Fangemeinde, seine berühmte Geschichte und seit langem eine unglaublich hohe Zuschauerzahl bei Spielen. Mit Stand von 2022 hatte Schalke 160.000 Fans. Dies macht Schalke zum zweitgrößten Sportverein in Deutschland und zum viertgrößten Sportverein weltweit nach Bayern, Benfica und Boca Juniors. In den letzten 2 Jahrzehnten hat Schalke nur 3 Trophäen gewonnen: den UEFA Intertoto Cup im Jahr 2004, den DFB-Pokal in der Saison 2010 bis 2011 und den DFL Supercup im Jahr 2011. Das letzte Mal, dass sie deutscher Meister waren, war 1958 und derzeit haben sie die längste Zeit ohne Titelgewinn hinter sich. Trotz all dessen hatten sie immer eine der treuesten Fangruppen im ganzen Land. Für die Schalke-Fans war 1997 ein goldenes Jahr, als sie den UEFA-Pokal gewann.
There's a commercial break. Yeah. Some great times in Schalke for sure.
Und schließlich ist der beste Weg zu zeigen, wie groß Schalke tatsächlich ist und wie ernst die Lage für diesen Verein in der gegenwärtigen Situation ist, die Zuschauerzahl. In der letzten Saison belegte Schalke den 3. Platz mit einem durchschnittlichen Zuschaueraufkommen von 61.000 Menschen. Und was ist mit Europa? 2018 belegte Schalke den 7. Platz in ganz Europa nach durchschnittlicher Zuschauerzahl. Und die letzte Frage: Wie sieht es mit der 2. Liga des deutschen Fußballs aus? Sind sie abgestiegen? Nein, sie haben immer noch 61.000 Zuschauer bei den Spielen der 2. Liga. Es spielt keine Rolle, ob sie verlieren oder gewinnen, selbst wenn sie im 2. Level gegen den Abstieg kämpfen. Sie haben immer noch genauso viele Zuschauer wie damals, als sie in der Champions League spielten. Ja. Das ist einfach unglaublich. Es ist an der Zeit zu verstehen, was mit Schalke geschehen ist. Einem Verein, der einst Finalist in der Bundesliga war und nun seit 5 Jahren um das Überleben kämpft. Wenn sie dieses Jahr absteigen, können sie in ihrer jetzigen Form nicht mehr weiter bestehen. Doch zunächst schlage ich vor, an den Anfang zurückzukehren. Die Geschichte von Schalke ist recht facettenreich, da die Blütezeit des Teams Mitte der 1930er Jahre stattfand, als Adolf Hitler in Deutschland an der Macht war. Und obwohl er kein großer Fußballfan war, glaubten viele, dass er Schalke unterstützte und den Verein als Aushängeschild zur Förderung seiner Politik nutzte. Wie dem auch sei, nach dem Ende des Zweiten Weltkriegs war der Verein weit von seiner früheren Glorie entfernt und gewann nur einmal die Meisterschaft im Jahr.
Now, they're saying this, and that's a lot of people had said this, but I think it's been obviously clearly refuted that no, he was not a Schalke fan, and no, the club had nothing to do with him, and have clearly distanced themselves from him throughout the years, and especially most recently, but definitely throughout the years. I think I don't care what club he supported, but it wasn't Schalke. I know that. So this claim has been refuted and many times.
1958. Danach folgte eine Phase des Niedergangs und ab Anfang der 1980er Jahre pendelte eine der einst besten Mannschaften Deutschlands 10 Jahre lang zwischen den Ligen. Doch ab Mitte der 1990er Jahre begann der Verein allmählich seinen verlorenen Status zurückzuerlangen.
Pause right here. Yeah, obviously the heyday of Schalke had been in the 1930s, a long time ago. If you don't know anything about Schalke's history, go on SchalkeMerica's YouTube video page, and there's a video about the history of Schalke in the 30s. Schalke they won 7 league titles in those years. Dominant team, dominated Dortmund, dominated everybody. It's been a long ways from that, and ever since the league, the Bundesliga formed, and they've been close. In the 90s and 2000s, we say here, the 90s is starting to get good again. But from 97 and even onward in 2000s, probably until 2011, Schalke really contending for the Bundesliga title almost every year. Fell short every year. Came within minutes and seconds many times, but did not win the trophy. But they had a hell of a time.
Der Wendepunkt war wohl das Jahr 1997, als Schalke überraschend den UEFA-Pokal gewann, indem sie im Finale den Mailand besiegten. Dieser Sieg brachte dem Verein nicht nur den ersten internationalen Pokal in seiner Geschichte, sondern gab auch den Impuls für weiteres Wachstum.
Wir alle zusammen, der Kapitän und das Motto der Mannschaft, das Wunder von Mailand der Triumph eines Teams.
Im Jahr 1998 begann der Verein mit dem Bau der Veltins Arena, die zu dieser Zeit als eines der besten Stadien in Europa galt. Kurz nach der feierlichen Eröffnung des neuen Stadions im Jahr 2001 stand der Verein kurz davor, die Bundesliga zu gewinnen und kämpfte bis zum letzten Spieltag mit Bayern um die Meisterschaft. Doch ohne Trophäe blieb das Team in dieser Saison nicht. Im Finale besiegte Schalke den Berliner Union und gewann einen weiteren DFB-Pokal. Neben den Erfolgen auf dem Spielfeld ereignete sich im Jahr 2001 ein weiteres bedeutendes Ereignis. Clemens Tönnies wurde zum Vorsitzenden des Aufsichtsrats gewählt. Im Grunde war er die wichtigste Figur im Verein und 20 Jahre lang war dieser Name gleichbedeutend mit Schalke, denn Tönnies verhalf dem Team in vielerlei Hinsicht zu großem Aufschwung, aber leider, wie die Zeit zeigte, führte er es auch in den Abgrund. Kehren wir zu den Fußballangelegenheiten zurück. Im Jahr
Clemens Tönnies, a known figure in German football, Schalke football. I was thinking about it just now, and it's similar, not quite the same levels. But in my head, I can relate it to Silvio Berlusconi joining Milan. Milan was teetering. He comes in. Obviously, this is Tony's into another degree, but resuscitates the club, puts a lot of money into the club. They become European champions for a long time, and then eventually went back down, and they failed and went back into a banter era. But you saw the whole arc under Berlusconi where they were at the bottom. He took them to the top, and then he left them at the bottom, right? And so Clemens Tönnies is a similar situation where Schalke was better positioned than Milan, but they competed for the Bundesliga title for a decade easily. And then the slowly gradual fall to where they are now, all can be attributed to Clemens Tönnies.
2004 übernahm Ralf Rangnick die Leitung des Teams und führte eine Mini-Revolution bei Schalke durch. Er setzte auf einen offensiven und sehr aggressiven Spielstil, dank dem die Knappen es auf den zweiten Platz schafften, mit einem Rückstand von 14 Punkten auf Bayern. Die folgende Saison verlief jedoch weniger erfolgreich, was zur Entlassung des Trainers führte. Unter der Leitung von Slomka kam Schalke in der Saison 2006 bis 2007 den Meistertitel so nah wie nie zuvor. In einer Situation, in der Bayern eine enttäuschende Saison hatte, bot sich Schalke eine hervorragende Möglichkeit, die Trophäe zu gewinnen. Doch das kühne Stuttgart unter der Führung von Armin.
Why is Amazon paying me $63,000
right at the wrong spot. That was a
month?
great moment in
Well,
the story.
I didn't make this kind of money selling yoga mats and toasters.
Oh, commercial
W
breaks.
sorgte für eine echte Sensation und gewann die Bundesliga, wobei sie die Knappen hinter sich ließen, die nur um 2 Punkte zurücklagen.
Oh, Mario Gomez.
Nach der unerwarteten Meisterschaft des bescheidenen Wolfsburg wurde Felix Magath zu Schalke eingeladen. Die Vereinsführung war der Meinung, dass der eiserne Felix das fehlende Puzzlestück sei, das ihnen endlich helfen würde, die Bundesliga zu gewinnen. Dabei verhielt sich der Klub auf dem Transfermarkt mehr als bescheiden und gab nur 8 Millionen aus, von denen 3 für die Verpflichtung des jungen Talents Lewis Holtby verwendet wurden. Trotz des Fehlens von qualitativen Verstärkungen gelang es Magath, das Maximum aus der Mannschaft herauszuholen, und er belegte am Ende der Saison 2009 bis 2010 den 2. Platz. Im folgenden Saison übernahm Felix jedoch die Rolle des Sportdirektors und vereinte im Wesentlichen 2 Positionen. Diese Änderungen ermöglichten es dem Trainer, sich persönlich mit der Transferpolitik zu befassen und Spieler nach seiner Philosophie auszuwählen. So kamen Raúl, Metzelder, Jurado und Huntelaar zu Schalke, und auch Julian Draxler wurde aus der Akademie verpflichtet. Und als es schon schien, dass die Mannschaft bereit war, auf ein neues Level zu gelangen, kam es zu einem vollständigen Misserfolg. In der Winterpause befand sich Schalke im Mittelfeld der Tabelle und zeigte auf dem Platz sehr blassen Fußball. Infolgedessen wurde Magath im März entlassen und sein alter Bekannter Ralf Rangnick übernahm. Er schaffte es, die Mannschaft in kürzester Zeit zu transformieren. In dem
It's also, you got to remember about Felix Magath's era is he combined those roles of coach and sporting director, and then it was like the Chelsea days before Chelsea, where he had, you look at how many, I think there was like 50 players on the roster who could have been on the senior team. I mean, on the starting 11. we had so many players. He just kept buying and buying and buying players and wasn't getting rid of players. And it's like, that's not affordable. That's not affordable. Like, what are we doing? Why would they let him do that? Because they gave him the damn job. Gave him the damn supervisory board or sporting director job. No doubt he brought in some great players, but they obviously he couldn't do the two jobs at once. And like I said, mid-table. I knew they were doing bad that year. I remember they were doing bad that year, but I forgot it was mid-table. And then they brought in Raniak to kind of resuscitate that season.
Bewusstsein, dass die Bundesliga-Saison nicht mehr zu retten war, setzte er den Schwerpunkt auf die Champions League. Zuerst wurde im Viertelfinale der Inter Mailand besiegt, aber im Halbfinale gegen Manchester United war Schalke nicht in der Lage, ernsthaften Wettbewerb zu leisten und schied nur einen Schritt vor dem Finale aus. Vor der Saison 2011 bis 2012 verließ die Mannschaft ihren Führer Manuel Neuer. Rangnick war entschieden gegen den Verkauf, doch die Vereinsführung nahm das lukrative Angebot des Bayern an und auch der Spieler selbst wollte zu einem prestigeträchtigeren Club wechseln.
I mean, you can hate the club all you want for that move to let Neuer go. Obviously, he was going to be a worldly, all-time great. But, you know, if the player wants to leave, there's not much you can do about it, right? And to Bayern Munich, at least they're getting a Dortmund, I guess. But yeah, it's hard. If you got the player says he wants to go too, to try new challenges, it's hard to say no to that. Sucked. That was like the last good year.
Trotz des Verlustes eines Schlüsselspielers begann Schalke jedoch hervorragend in die Saison, indem sie den DFB Supercup gewannen. Bereits im September sorgte Rangnick jedoch für Aufsehen, als er verkündete, dass er entschieden hatte, seinen Posten zu verlassen und verwies auf emotionale Erschöpfung. In der Folgezeit schaffte es der Club regelmäßig in die Champions League-Zone. Doch im Jahr 2016 wurde der Punkt ohne Rückkehr überschritten, wonach der Club begann, seinen sanften Fall zu erleben. Im Februar 2016 wurde Christian Heidel als Sportdirektor eingeladen, der sich zu diesem Zeitpunkt bereits als effektiver Manager durch seine erfolgreiche Arbeit in Mainz ausgezeichnet hatte. Clemens Tönnies erklärte, dass Heidel in der Lage sein werde, eine Struktur zu schaffen, die Schalke in Zukunft ermöglichen wird, um den Titel zu kämpfen. Die erste Entscheidung des neuen Sportdirektors war, Markus Weinziel.
Oh my God, this is like where the downfall started. Tony's claiming that Heidel was going to make us into Bundesliga contenders. And then after he's gone, brings in this numbnuts over here.
Als Cheftrainer zu engagieren, der im Jahr zuvor den bescheidenen Augsburg in die Europa League geführt hatte. Allerdings war die Transferpolitik umstritten, da Schalke trotz ambitionierter Ziele das Grundgerüst in Form von Draxler, Rafinha, Matip und Sané verkauft hatte. Als Ersatz für die Abgewanderten wurden Embolo, Bentaleb, Stambouli und Konoplyanka verpflichtet.
Talk about that. What the fuck? That is names there, right? So look at the names again.
Ist in Form von Draxler, Rafinha, Matip und Sané verkauft.
So they got rid of Julian Draxler, Rafinha, Joel Matip.
Hatte als Ersatz für die
Farfan and Leroy Sané. All freaking unbelievable names. And who the hell they bring in?
Gewanderten wurden Embolo, Bentaleb, Stambouli und
Brielle Embolo for 38 million euros. Bentaleb, Nabil Bentaleb. What the hell do? Stambouli, Konoplyanka. What the fuck? Yeah, wow. That's just. I like those players, but they're nowhere even close to the level of the players who are replacing.
Konoplyanka verpflichtet. Doch leider haben diese Transfers nicht einmal annähernd die investierten Mittel zurückgebracht, weshalb die Mannschaft die Saison enttäuschend abschloss und ohne Europapokal blieb. Letztendlich wurde der Trainer ein Jahr später entlassen und sein Nachfolger wurde Domenico Tedesco, der die Aufgabe erhielt, die Mannschaft zu transformieren. Trotz der Tatsache, dass Tedesco zu diesem Zeitpunkt noch keine Erfahrung in der Leitung eines großen Clubs hatte, gelang es ihm, das Team neu zu strukturieren und eine ausgezeichnete Atmosphäre innerhalb der Mannschaft zu schaffen. Zu Beginn startete Tedesco seine Arbeit mit einem Umbau des Kaders, da im Sommer viele erfahrene Spieler den Club verließen. Darunter waren Huntelaar, Sam und Kolasinac sowie der Kapitän der Mannschaft.
Yeah, Huntelaar, Sam and Kolasinac left and Benedikt Höwedes was ousted.
Benedikt Höwedes. Der Club beschloss, die Verluste durch interne Ressourcen auszugleichen, weshalb junge Spieler wie Goretzka, Kehrer und McKennie eine führende Rolle einnahmen.
Despite all the bad that Dom Tedesco did with letting some of these people go, obviously not allowing youngsters like McKennie and Goretzka and Thilo Kehrer to play, they all became really good players.
Schließlich wurde Schalke am Ende der Saison 2017 bis 2018 erneut Zweiter und sicherte sich damit die Möglichkeit, in der Champions League zu spielen. Doch trotz des erfolgreichen Saisonabschlusses waren im Club bereits irreversible Prozesse in Gang gesetzt worden. Erstens führte eine unzureichende Transferpolitik dazu, dass der Club seine besten Spieler für enorme Summen verkaufte und im Gegenzug Spieler verpflichtete, die die investierten Mittel bei weitem nicht rechtfertigten. Zum Beispiel erzielte Schalke für das Trio Sahne, Draxler und Kehrer über 120 Millionen Euro. Doch all dieses Geld wurde in die fehlgeschlagenen Transfers von Embolo, Taleb, Rudi, Serdar, Geis und Stambouli.
Wow. I mean, that shows the ineptness of Heidel and company. You sell 3 players for 120 million euros. Julian Draxler, Leroy Sané, and who was the other one? I forget who the other one was. 120 million euros. And then you go and get Imbolo, Talib, Rudi, Serdar, Geis, and Stambouli. Barely spending money.
Investiert. Noch komplizierter war die Situation mit den Verträgen, was den Sportdirektor Heidel in eine kritische Lage brachte. Unter seiner Leitung verlor der Club Spieler wie Goretzka, Matip Meyer und Kolasinac, die ablösefrei gingen und Schalke eine potenzielle Einnahme von etwa 100 Millionen Euro kosteten. Schließlich wurde Tedesco nach einer vernichtenden Niederlage gegen Man City mit 0:7 entlassen. Einen Monat zuvor hatte Christian Heidel seinen Abschied angekündigt, dem es nicht gelungen war, Schalke nachhaltig zu transformieren. Das Ergebnis seiner Arbeit:
lose out on a potential $100 million in sales by letting those 4 fucking guys leave for free. I just summed up Christian Heidel's time at Schalke. I forgot how much I hated the guy. I forgot. At the time, we were thinking like, what the fuck are they doing over here? Like, is he trying to like blow up the team? Clearly he was.
war ein Loch im Vereinsbudget, das auf 250 Millionen finanziellen Situation endgültig begrub. Nach dem Ausbruch von Covid in Deutschland wurde eine Quarantäne angekündigt, wodurch der Club bedeutende Einnahmen aus dem Ticketverkarten zu fordern. Der Club erklärte, das Geld nur jenen zurückzuerstatten, die rechtlich nachweisen könnten, dass sie es wirklich nötig hätten. So verrückt es auch klingen mag.
I forgot about that too. The club didn't want to give money back to the fans for the tickets. Only those who really needed it financially. I forgot about that shit. Fucking Tonys.
Aber zu diesem Zeitpunkt war die Situation innerhalb des Clubs bereits außer Kontrolle geraten und entwickelte sich zu einem Szenario des unvermeidlichen Untergangs. Die Saison 2021 wurde zum Spiegelbild des Chaos, das in den letzten Jahren im Club herrschte. Das Fehlen von Balance und Strategie führte dazu, dass in dieser Saison 5 Trainer die Mannschaft übernahmen, doch keiner von ihnen war mehr in der Lage, den Club vor dem rasanten Fall in den Abgrund zu bewahren. Eine Serie von Niederlagen und die tiefe Krise, die Schalke erfasste, führten schließlich dazu, dass der langjährige Leiter Clemens Tönnies gezwungen war, zurückzutreten. Sein Abschied zog einen Schlussstrich unter eine glorreiche Ära, die in einem düsteren Ende mündete. Nach einer Auswärtsniederlage gegen Arminia wurde der Abstieg von Schalke aus der Bundesliga offiziell besiegelt. Die schöne Geschichte eines beeindruckenden Aufstiegs des Clubs endete mit einem dramatischen Abschluss, in dem eine der einst besten Mannschaften Deutschlands sich am Rand des Abgrunds wiederfand, mit einer zerstörten Führungshierarchie und erheblichen finanziellen Problemen. Nach dem Abschied aus der Elite begann Schalke allmählich eine neue Struktur aufzubauen und den Club im Grunde von Grund auf neu zu gestalten. In der ersten Phase gelang es ihm, sein Budget durch die Entlastung der Gehaltsliste nach dem Abgang wichtiger Spieler etwas zu stabilisieren. Dabei arbeitete der Club ordentlich auf dem Transfermarkt und stellte eine qualitativ starke Mannschaft zusammen, die in der Lage war, den Aufstieg zu schaffen. Doch der wohl entscheidende Wendepunkt auf Schalkes Weg zur Wiederaufbau Wiederauferstehung war die Kündigung des Vertrags mit der Firma Gazprom. Der Verlust des Hauptsponsors zog dem gebeutelten Klub den Boden unter den Füßen weg, der ohnehin schon mit finanziellen Schwierigkeiten zu kämpfen hatte und sich nach dieser Situation am Rande des Verschwindens befand. Doch auf dem
I mean, yeah, the losing Gazprom was huge financially. Had to be done though. There's no way they could have stayed with Gazprom, considering what was going on then now. But like, it wasn't just that. It was just, yeah, like that thing kind of set everything over the edge. But like everything that led up to it, everything under Tony's and Heidel and all that, what led up to it. And then poor play on the pitch. I mean, like, and you know, whatever. I want to know what the hell I need to find this out. But like, what was end up being the reason Rowan Schroeder left Schalke, right? Got them promoted to the Bundesliga and then left in the middle of the night. Like I said, I'm done, out of nowhere. Like, what was that? What happened there between him and Heffer or whoever it was? What caused him to leave? That was like...
Im Spielfeld konnte das Team seine Leistungsfähigkeit beweisen und den Aufstieg in die Eliteklasse erreichen. Leider war dies jedoch nutzlos, denn in der Bundesliga war der Klub nicht wettbewerbsfähig und musste schließlich erneut in die zweite Liga absteigen und seinen Abwärtstrend fortsetzen. Und heute kämpft Schalke verzweifelt ums Überleben auf dem Niveau der zweiten Bundesliga. Was passiert, wenn sie tatsächlich absteigen? Im deutschen Fußball müssen die Vereine Lizenzen haben, um auf einem bestimmten Niveau spielen zu können, und aufgrund der Schulden von Schalke in Höhe von 65 Millionen Euro kann die Liga dem Club einfach die Lizenz verweigern. Das ist schon früher passiert. Mannschaften in der dritten Liga haben die Saison begonnen, konnten aber finanziell nicht bestehen und wurden unter fremde Verwaltung gestellt, wodurch sie mitten in der Saison bankrott gingen. Um solche Situationen zu vermeiden, verlangen die Ligen von den Vereinen Nachweise über ihre finanzielle Stabilität, bevor sie mit der Saison beginnen dürfen. Wenn Schalke also in die dritte Liga absteigt, kann die Liga ihnen aufgrund hoher Schulden und fehlender Garantien für den Abschluss der Saison die Teilnahme verweigern. In diesem Fall würde Schalke in seiner jetzigen Form nicht mehr bestehen. Der Verein müsste liquidiert werden und von vorne in den Amateurligen anfangen. Das ist unvermeidlich, wenn sie absteigen, und zurzeit halten sie ihren Platz nur aufgrund der Tordifferenz. Die traurige Geschichte von Schalke ist ein deutliches Beispiel für das Fehlen einer Strategie. Wie die Zeit gezeigt hat, war der Klub nicht auf die Herausforderungen vorbereitet, die sich ihm in den Weg stellen. Infolgedessen führte eine Reihe von Misserfolgen zum Fall des Klubs, der vor einigen Jahren noch die Aufmerksamkeit der Fans auf sich zog und als einer der erfolgreichsten in Deutschland galt. Möglicherweise wird es dem Klub in naher Zukunft gelingen, die verlorenen Positionen zurückzugewinnen. Doch angesichts der Ergebnisse der Mannschaft in dieser Saison fällt es schwer, daran zu glauben.
Wow, that's I feel like I wanted to comment more, but I was like so in shock when I was watching that. I mean, it's good documentary, eye-opening to remember all that stuff. But yeah, it's the rise and fall of Clemens Tony and Schalke and all the horrible decisions they had along the way. Oh my goodness. Oh, I was supposed to end this on a positive note, and I had to end it on that. Motherfucker. Oh, that was something. So many things I had forgotten about, and like, yeah, just the Christian Heidel stuff, the Felix Magus stuff, obviously the Clemens Tony stuff. I didn't mention Rowan Schroeder, like leaving in the middle of the night. That was crazy shit too. Like, it's typical Schalke. That's what it is now. We were going from perennial Bundesliga contender every year to freaking might not be in the second division next year. Well, we are, but crazy things happen, I guess. If Munster could turn into prime Spain or Barcelona, who's to say on the last match day that Braunschweig doesn't pull something out their ass and we blow our ass up? I don't know. All right. On that note, I'm done. Got some stuff to do. Long stream. We are at 2.5 hours or so not that long. Last week was longer, I think. All right. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Like I said, we will be back Monday podcast to kind of wrap up the season, talk about the last game against Elversberg, and yeah, do our awards of the show and get done with the season, the horrible season. One game left that means anything to us, the Women's Pokal final. Enjoy the game, enjoy the week. Catch you guys on Monday. Glück auf. Make sure you follow us everywhere across social media. Follow us on Twitch, YouTube, all across. Send us messages. Glück auf. See you guys around. And it's Fight the Liga.